I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's being remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, well, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you. It's 3 p.m. and a happy Friday. And welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GBNews. We're broadcasting for you live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. And here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. 2 men killed in an attack at a synagogue in Manchester have been named as Adrian Dalby and Melvin Kravitz. The police have named the suspected attacker as Jihad al-Shimi, who came into Britain from Syria as a child. But what's motivated Jihad? We'll bring you all the very latest from Manchester.
We don't want our Jewish community here in Britain to have to live a smaller Jewish life because of the fear of anti-Semitism.
Yes, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has urged un-British pro-Palestine protesters to stand down ahead of a London march tomorrow. But the organisers, they simply refused. Today I'm joined in the studio by a journalist who was at last night's pro-Gaza protest outside Parliament, who claims they were utterly shameless. Is it time to finally ban these so-called hate marches? And the Green Party has come under fire after banning a women's rights group from its conference to protect so-called the trans community. Well, the Greens used to be regarded as affable tree huggers. What's changed?
My name is Bouquet. B-U-C-K-E-T. No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. The actress Dame Patricia Routledge, of course, known for playing Hyacinth's Bouquet in the TV sitcom Keeping Up Appearances, has died at the grand old age of 96. On today's show, I'll be joined by one of the comedy co-stars to pay tributes to a truly great comedy British legend, and that's all coming up on today's show. Well, to show, it's a pleasure to have your company. Yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, and the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, said nobody should have to tolerate anti-Semitism. We must join together to stamp it out. Well, tomorrow, 1,500 protesters are planned to descend on London, ignoring in its entirety what happened at that synagogue yesterday. Surely it's time for them to take a day off. Surely the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister, if they're serious about clamping down on anti-Semitism, should call time on that march. They should ban it. Let's actually show them that we will not tolerate this on our streets starting tomorrow. Have you got the guts for it? The people want it. 93% of the British public think these marches tomorrow should be stopped. It appears our governing class are in that 7%. Get in touch. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now it's time for your headlines, and here's Sophia Hill.
Martin, thank you. A very good afternoon. It's just gone 3 o'clock. These are your top stories. Our vigil is taking place in Crampsall today to honour the victims and the families from the Manchester synagogue terror attack. The vigil is being held in partnership with the Jewish Representative Local Council and local leaders. This follows from the news from Greater Manchester Police that one of the synagogue terror attack victims suffered gunshot wounds that mistakenly came from one of their officers as they tried to shoot the killer. The force has now referred itself to the police watchdog. The 2 men killed in the attack have been named by the police as 66-year-old Melvin Kravitz and 53-year-old Adrian Dalby. Sir Keir Starmer has been thanking emergency service workers who responded to the attack during his visit to Manchester.
And it's really important today that the whole country comes together, people of all faiths and no faiths, to stand in support and solidarity with our Jewish community. And I know that your work and everything you've done will help to that end, but it is something the whole country now needs to do. We must defeat anti-Semitism, and that is the responsibility of all of us. It's the responsibility of government, and we will rise to that challenge and do all that we can to absolutely ensure that our Jewish community is safe and secure.
The attacker responsible for the killing of the 2 men and seriously injuring 3 has been named as Jihad al-Shami. 3 others have since been arrested. The 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent was shot dead 7 minutes after police were called to the scene. He came to the UK as a young child and was granted British citizenship in 2006 as a minor. His family has strongly condemned the heinous act that happened as worshippers gathered on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Yesterday's events didn't stop pro-Palestinian protests going ahead across the nation last night. Shabana Mahmood says that those that took place in the wake of the attack were dishonourable.
Don't want our Jewish community here in Britain to have to live a smaller Jewish life because of the fear of anti-Semitism. And it is really important that we all hold the line between that which is legitimate in our country, which is protest and so on, but that behaviour which crosses the line and breaks our laws. The laws of our land must be upheld, and I will ensure that they are.
This afternoon, Baroness Michelle Mone says she has no wish to return to the Lords as a Conservative peer in a letter to Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. It comes after a company linked to her must repay the government £122 million for breaching a contract for medical gowns during the COVID pandemic. PPE MedPro, which was set up by a consortium led by Mone's husband, Doug Barrowman, was paid millions to supply the gowns. But the protective equipment has been in storage since 2020 after the company failed to prove that they were correctly sterilised. Dame Sarah Mullally has been named as the next Archbishop of Canterbury, the first time a woman has been appointed to the role in the Church of England's history. In a speech this morning, she describes the Manchester synagogue terror attack as horrific and warned that hatred and racism of any kind cannot be allowed to tear us apart. Originally from Woking in Surrey, she was the UK's chief nursing officer from 1999 to 2004. The announcement comes almost a year since Justin Welby resigned from the role as spiritual leader of the Church of England due to a damning review into its handling of the sexual abuse scandal. In her words, since confirmation of her appointment, she said that while the role is her huge responsibility, she feels a sense of peace and trust in God to carry her.
I'm deeply thankful to the people, the churches and communities of the Diocese of London. It is my deep privilege to have shared ministry with you for almost 8 years. It has not been easy to accept that I will be leaving you.
Sean Diddy Coombs is set to be sentenced in New York this afternoon after he was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation for prostitution. He was convicted of flying people across the US for sexual encounters he called, quote, freak-offs, including his girlfriends and male sex workers. The prosecution want him to serve at least 11 years in prison. Coombs' lawyers asked for 14 months. Coombs is expected to address the judge before he's sentenced. And actress Dame Patricia Routledge has died at the age of 96.
My name is Bouquet. B-U-C-K-E-T. No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
She was best known for her role in the comedy TV show Keeping Up Appearances, the show which captivated audiences in the 1990s and attracted as many as 13 million viewers at its peak. Her versatility, a word that she did not relish because it implied, she said, quote, not being very good at anything, took her career far beyond the range of TV sitcoms. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in half an hour, but before I hand you back to Martin, let's just check in on the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the afternoon's markets. The pound will buy you $1.346 and €1.146. The price of gold is £2,886 and 2 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,475 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, the fallout from yesterday's shocking terror attack on a Manchester synagogue continues to filter through, with politicians from across the political spectrum condemning it and expressing their support for the British Jewish community. Today, the Met Police have urged pro-Palestine organisers to cancel or delay protests in the wake of the attack, with the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood condemning yesterday's demonstrations as un-British when she spoke to GB News earlier on today.
Those messages are utterly disgraceful. They are fundamentally un-British in nature, as far as I'm concerned. I would have wanted to see people in this country, step back from protesting for at least a few days, just to give the Jewish community here a chance to process what has happened.
Well, the victims have now been named as 53-year-old Adrian Daubney and also 66-year-old Melvin Kravitz. Well, for more reaction, let's go now to GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, welcome to the show. An extremely harrowing day yesterday for the world's Jewish community, I believe, and the details are starting to emerge of the suspect and also those who died and lost their lives, and also how the police were involved in some of their loss of life. Tell us more, Charlie.
Yes, Martin, and we're now hearing from the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, about those planned upcoming protests taking place tomorrow, because the Met had written to the organisers of one of those protests, Defend Our Juries, who are putting on what is expected to see over 1,000 protesters gather in Trafalgar Square to express support for the proscribed terrorist organisation Palestine Action. Now, of course, these protests have been taking place throughout the summer just gone. There have been hundreds of protests at several of these incidents, in some cases, closing in on almost 1,000. This could be their biggest demonstration yet. And we've heard from Sir Mark Rowley saying that they want to be able to deploy every available officer to ensure the safety of communities, but instead, Defend Our Juries are deliberately choosing to encourage mass law-breaking because, of course, it is an offence to express support for a proscribed terrorist organisation. Now, we've also heard from Sir Mark saying that while they've stepped up support for Jewish populations for the Jewish high holy days outside synagogues, etc., they have also put on additional resources to be deployed in the vicinity of mosques and in communities with larger Muslim populations in the coming days to provide reassurance and to keep people safe. They say that the Met is aware of increased concern in London's Muslim communities who fear being the target of hate and intimidation following the attack on a synagogue in Manchester. We've also heard from the Deputy Assistant Commissioner Claire Smart. She's in charge of the policing operation this weekend. She said that this is taking at a time of noticeably heightened community tensions, not just in Jewish and Muslim communities, but across society more broadly. She's also criticised the polarised debate on immigration matters and related protests which have played out in locations across London. Martin, we're getting a real sense of frustration from the police, I think, at the number of these mass protests that they are being expected to police, the drag it's taking on resources, the millions that it's costing. And this Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Claire Smart, she goes on to say that specialist officers will be working with event organisers to review policing and security plans in place. Now, in reaction to this request to cancel their planned demonstration this Saturday, we've also heard from Defend Our Juries, that organisation putting on this protest that's likely to see mass arrests. They say that, first and foremost, their thoughts are with everyone who's lost their lives, but they say that these placards that are going to happen tomorrow, some 1,500 people will be holding them up, saying, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine Action." They've also then said that they'll be continuing their protest and cancelling peaceful protests. Let's terror win.
Charlie Peters, it's an astonishingly tin-eared response, I believe, and so do the Jewish community around the world, that's for sure. Thank you, Charlie, for bringing us up to speed as ever. Appreciate it. Now, I'm joined in the studio now by the journalist Jack Hadfield, who was caught up in one of those pro-Palestine protests yesterday evening, and that was in Parliament Square. Jack, welcome to the show. Now, our viewers will be familiar with your sterling work already, because, of course, you've been covering the Asylum Hotel protests at Epping and other places. Last night you were looking at the other side. You were right in the middle. We were watching it online. It looked very heated. It looked very, very fraught. You were there. What was the mood?
Yeah, and again, I believe this protest was planned first as a sort of a red flash protest in support of the Sumud flotilla, which had been arrested, obviously, outside on the coast of Israel the day beforehand. Greta Thunberg's guys, yeah, exactly. So this was a relatively swiftly organised protest, but then, of course, happened to happen on the day of this awful terrorist attack in Manchester. And yet all these people, I'd probably say at least 1,000, still turned out on the streets of London. Some of them specifically there holding signs relating to the terrorist attack that morning, with one person holding a sign saying people aren't political pawns. Obviously, when people were using that as an example of the Prime Minister and others saying, well, you shouldn't protest now because you have to give respect to these families. This person's holding up a sign saying, no, I want to protest regardless of what happened there.
Now, Joe, we've got some of your footage on the screen here, and I've been to a lot of these protests. Again, I've been to both sides. I've been to what they call the Patriot ones. I've been to these ones. I've been egged at these ones. I've had stuff thrown at me at these ones. And I've seen a police response at the Patriot ones, which is much more hard line. It kicked off a bit last night. The police just seemed to stand by and watch.
It did. I think that's exactly right. What happened was that they put two police cordons, one on the Trafalgar Square end of Whitehall, one on the Parliament Square end of Whitehall, just by the Red Lion pub. Yep. They wouldn't let people go through, so I went around to get the other side so I wouldn't be completely locked in. And then I saw these protesters break through the cordon. Now, again, as you said, I've been covering the Asylum Hotel protests for over the last 3 months now. I have never, ever seen a police cordon being broken through by those protesters at the protests.
Well, I have seen a police cordon broken through at the Cenotaph on November the 11th, and the police drew their batons and they cracked skulls. They were making, British patriots' heads bleed. I was right on the front line. I've seen this with my own two eyes, and I consistently, since the beginning, Jack, have said, we have two-tier policing. And here we go again. Now the Home Secretary and the Metropolitan Police are asking very nicely, please don't protest tomorrow. It'd be ever so nice if you didn't. And they've said the protest will go ahead as planned. And I put it to you, Jack, a lot of people are looking on thinking, are the police serious about protecting the Jewish community, or are they just paying lip service?
Well, I think, firstly, you're right, it is two-tier policing. There was a little bit of argy-bargy, a few people arrested, but one police officer drew a baton that I saw, didn't use it. As you said, if it was the Patriots, etc., they would have been cracking skulls. And again, with the Home Secretary and the Met Police just asking them, oh, ever so nicely, please don't protest. They have the powers. You could put orders in Whitehall, Parliament Square, Embankment as a no-protest zone. If you go and protest in here, immediate arrest. They could do that if they wanted to, so why aren't they? That's the question.
And they have done that, because at one where people were getting arrested in the evening on Whitehall, right by the Cenotaph, they put a dispersal order in and they scooped everybody up and they made about 300 arrests. They could do that tomorrow.
Yeah, and in fact, they issued as well a Section 12 and Section 14 order before the cordon was broken through. And yet, again, only a few people were arrested at the time. So why weren't the entire crowd rounded up and arrested for doing that? I have absolutely no idea. Again, it does really seem like we're having two-tier policing once again on the streets of London when pro-Palestine activists, again, as we know, on Saturday they're going to be supporting Palestine Action, a prescribed terrorist organisation, and they're seemingly allowed to run around and go free. But if you want to stop mass immigration into this country, if you say, I want mass deportations, you will get arrested and charged with inciting racial hatred. But if you chant death, death to the IDF, you're completely fine.
Jack Hadfield, thank you for your work. It's becoming a vital sort of piece of journalistic reality, what's going on, and, keep that coming. Sterling work, Jack Hadfield. Pleasure to have you in the studio, as ever. Let's cross live now to Crumpsall in Greater Manchester and speak to GBNews reporter Anna Riley. Anna, welcome to the show. The Prime Minister has paid a visit and thanked emergency service staff there. Our community is still very much trying to come to terms with what's happened yesterday.
Certainly, Martin, we're here at the Vigil. Hundreds, if not thousands of people have turned out here today, despite this wet weather, to pay their tributes to those 2 victims from yesterday's horrendous attack and those 3 people that are still in hospital. A community truly in mourning, but also a community coming together in solidarity. We're joined now by Hayley, Joanne and Joanne. Hayley, if I can just start with you. What's your links to this area and what's brought you out today?
So I actually grew up round here, went to school round here. I had my bat mitzvah in the synagogue. My parents got married here in the synagogue, and my granddad was a founding member. And my children also went to school round here. And it's our community. It doesn't matter whether you're from here or not. I think we've all come here in solidarity just to all support each other.
I can see how emotional you are. How are you still feeling from this horrendous attack yesterday?
No words. People keep asking me, colleagues, are you okay? I am, but I'm not. That's the best way to put it. And I don't think we will be for a long time, but this was almost, we were waiting for this to happen.
Joanne, are you feeling the same?
Very much so. Yesterday just totally upset me. I can't believe that people went into the synagogue and 2 people are never, ever, ever going to come home. But like Hayley, I got married in that shul. It used to be my shul when I lived in Blakely, just round the corner from here. So I just had to come today because the feeling of us all being in the Jewish community, all these people here today, it's just lovely that we're all here to help each other and to support each other. I got a lot of messages yesterday from friends who aren't Jewish saying, are you okay? Like Hayley, I was okay, but I wasn't okay. But yeah, so Heaton Park has got a very special place in my heart. I got married there, so I was distraught yesterday. Yeah.
And Joanne, just to bring you in, we know that the Prime Minister was here earlier this morning. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, is coming to this vigil. What do you think the support from the government has been?
What support? I actually think there's no support. I have posted on my Facebook and on my Instagram that Keir Starmer has blood on his hands. To allow the protests to have gone on like they have with the Palestinian crowd. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for freedom of speech and differences of opinion, but when it's inciting hatred and anti-Semitism, there has to be a line that's drawn, and that line has to be drawn by the government. And the government not only hasn't done it, but has basically encouraged it. And to not ban the protests last night and then not to ban them tomorrow, where is the respect? Where is the respect? It's like 9/11 happening, and the next day the people that incited 9/11 going and marching. It's disgraceful. And as for Keir Starmer not being here, he was here this morning, big deal. He's gone to the hospital, so he should. Why isn't he here? Why isn't he here amongst the community? No, he's scuppered back to London. That's how I feel.
We really appreciate you taking the time to share that with us, and I can just see how emotional it is as well, so thank you very much. So just really touching there, Martin, just speaking to people from the community, just how affected that they've been, and you can really just tell from the size of the crowd as well, whether people here are Jewish or not. They're coming together as Manchester, they're coming together as the community at this vigil.
Anna, can you please pass on my love and our viewers' love to those amazing women? I'm quite sort of choked by that. I can tell you are. It's incredibly powerful to hear what they have to say, and we need to listen to these people. And the Prime Minister needs to listen to these people, because we can't have any more kumbaya and thoughts and prayers and lighting candles and all coming together and this will never happen again. This must stop. Anna Riley, please give them my sincere love and regards. Thank you very much for joining us there from Crumpsall. Oh, right, now still has more to come between now and 6 o'clock. And next I'll be joined by a Jewish writer who has accused politicians, just like those ladies there in Crumpsall, of crying crocodile tears over the synagogue terror attack. You with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, and this is Britain's News Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You.
Welcome back. Now let's go. There's a live vigil currently taking place in Crumpsall following yesterday's terror attack. Let's listen in.
One of the heroes of the Heaton Park Shore community, who is today in hospital recovering from terrible wounds, together with Andrew, who blocked the terrorists with his body, and together with Bernard, who did the same. And so I want to begin with prayers for them, as is traditional. If you can, please join with me. Shulam alois esainai el hehorim me'ayin yovo Yezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oisei shomayim v'oretz. Al yitain lamoit raglecha al yonum shomrecha. Hinei la yonum v'la yishon shoymei Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tilcha al yad yaminecha. Yoimam Hashemesh lo yakekov yoreach balayla. Adonai yishmo chamikora yishmer es nafshecha. Adonai yishmo teizcha uvoyecha me'ata v'yad olam. Friends, we pray for the injured and for all those of our community and beyond who are suffering from this heinous event. And we also remember Adrian and Melvin, two truly wonderful, special men whose lives were so truly snatched from them as they tried to pray as Jews on the holiest day of the year, on Yom Kippur. I'm going to recite for them the memorial prayer. El molei rachamim shoichein b'meroimim hamtzei menucha mechain al kanfei shechina b'malois kadoshim u'tahirim kezoya harakia mazhirim Es nishmois Avraham Yaakov ben David ben Sion v'mei Eliezer ben Binyamin sholchu li'olamam bavo shonu mispalim b'razkos nishmosam v'gan eden tei menuchasam lochem balarachamim yasvei mitez kanafov lo'olamim v'yitzoi b'tochaimis nishmosehem Adonai nachlasam v'yanuchu b'shalom mishkavam v'noimar Amen. Please now join me in a moment of silence. Ovinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Shlach Refuah Shalem Malachayli Amecha. Send a complete recovery to those unwell. Yehei Zichram Baruch. May their memory be for a blessing. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Addlestone, OBE, the Chairman of the JLC.
Thank you, Rabbi Daniel. I can't imagine how you're feeling, what that was like, and what you've gone through. So, ladies and gentlemen, like you, I'm still shell-shocked by what happened yesterday, but as chair of the Jewish Representative Council, I know that our community is looking for two things: leadership and hope. So we are blessed to have various MPs and civic dignitaries here, and in particular I want to highlight Minister Alex Davis-Jones. Thank you so much for being with us, and many of you. Thank you to Keith Black and Louise Jacobs from the JLC and Phil Rosenberg from the Board of Deputies for joining us again from London and giving us your support. We grieve for the losses of Adrian and Melvin, and we pray for the recovery of Yoni and Andrew and Bernard. We feel the comfort and the support of the wider non-Jewish world. We know that the silent majority is throwing its arms around us in sympathy and in support. Greater Manchester Police and the emergency services have been outstanding. Our civic leaders, yes, thank you. See our chief over here. Thank you for being with us. Chief Constable, Sir Stephen Watson. Our civic leaders and politicians have been incredibly supportive, as evidenced by the turnout today. And we really do appreciate this support. It gives us strength. And yet, there is so much more that needs to be done if the deaths of these two poor souls are to mean anything. Change needs to happen. And I see right in front of me a sign saying, "No more words, we demand action." So our challenge to, and our demand of, our political leaders, including the Deputy Prime Minister, who is here with us today, is to stop this hateful narrative, to stem this at its rotten core. The conflation of anti-Zionism and Jew hatred cannot be allowed to continue. No longer can people claim to be anti-Zionist and yet not Jew haters. We can no longer appease the extremists in this country, especially those of the far left and radical Islamists. We have to stop the Palestinian marches being a glorification of the death of Jews. As it was yesterday, unbelievable, on the day of those two deaths. Now, half of the marchers are certainly marching for humanitarian reasons, but half are not. And we need to focus on the half that are not. We have to ban the phrase, globalise the Intifada. We have to tackle those people who are teaching and spreading hatred in places of worship. We have to tackle the university campuses and the NHS, where Jewish students and workers and patients are made to feel vulnerable by there being a proliferation of pro-Palestinian badges. We have to root out the evil ideology, but not with hatred, not hatred from our side. Words matter. Words lead to hate, and hate leads to the tragedy we endured yesterday. We cannot continue to allow a war being waged over 2,500 miles away to bleed onto our streets. We look to our politicians to make diversity beautiful by insisting on real integration, where communities contribute to the overall good of the country and don't continue to look inwardly, staying rooted within their own narrow worlds. We are proud British Mancunian Jews who have contributed to this country for over 150 years. We love Manchester, and we love this country, and we proudly wave the Union Jack. Are those who are against us also proud of being British? Which flag do they wave? This is our challenge to our political leaders who are here on the stage with us today. So therefore, I have great pleasure in introducing our Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy. And before I do, please, we know how we all feel. We know how we all feel.
Go to Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
They've allowed it to run on a carpet. My children's school was closed today. You have allowed this to happen.
You have blood on your hands!
You're all guilty of all you have allowed Jew hatred in Manchester on the street. You have allowed it. You are all guilty. You do not want this speaking here today. You do not speak. You do not speak. You do not want this speaking. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Enough! Enough!
Empty words.
Okay, all right, we've heard enough. We've heard enough. We've heard enough. We know how you feel. I know how I feel. Let's give the time for our Deputy Prime Minister to address us. David Lammy.
Friends, we must stand together today. We must stand in grief, in solidarity and in defiance. Grief for the innocent lives that were taken so cruelly, senseless murders carried out on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish year. Grief that causes so much pain and so much suffering. Today, our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers must be with the families and those who were killed. And of course with this community, this Jewish community, both here in Manchester and at Heaton Park Synagogue. Right across our nation, and as the Member of Parliament for Tottenham, I know the suffering in Crumpsall is the same as the pain, the worry and the frightened faces in my own constituency and in the area of Stamford Hill, one of the historic homes of the Jewish community in this country. In that sense, London and Manchester are twin communities, grieving as one, and the whole nation is with them. That's why we stand in solidarity with the Jewish people, because an attack like this is never felt alone. Wherever you are in our country, Jewish people, our friends, our neighbours, our loved ones, are terrified by the events of yesterday, of becoming targets, victims of anti-Semitic hate, simply for who they are. But I know this about Britain's Jewish community, a community I have known all of my life. You are strong, you are resilient, and you will never be cowed. And that's what I want you to know today, that our country, those of all colours, all faiths and none, stand with you. We stand with you against terrorism. We stand with you against those who think bombs and blasts will break us. We stand against all those who would minimise or coddle or obfuscate on anti-Jewish hate. We know terrorism in this country. We know it, of course, in this city. We saw it at the arena. And we have seen it in Heaton Park. We all know terrorism. We all feel terrorism. My best friend from childhood, James Adams, was blown to smithereens in the 7/7 bombings. And I vow to you, every Christian, every Muslim, every Jew, every Mancunian, every Brit, we will never stop fighting it. That is why we stand in defiance of those terrorists who seek to divide us, who want to pit neighbour against neighbour, to weaken the bonds that bind us together as one nation, one people, one united kingdom.
Please, let the Deputy Prime Minister speak, please.
Every Saturday!
Please!
We cannot, we must not let them divide us. We must show them who we really are, not what they want us to become or to believe, but Britain's true nature, a tolerant nation, built on mutual respect, common understanding, where people live not in fear.
Empty words, we want action.
But in freedom, that is who we are. That is who we will always be. And it cannot be eroded by violence. It cannot be erased by vile acts, such as those carried out here yesterday. I want to close with this thought. When I have lost loved ones in the past, Jewish friends have often used a phrase to comfort me. May their memory be a blessing. Nothing will ever take away the pain of what happened here, but how we respond now, how we stand together, yes, in grief and in solidarity, but also in defiance and a shared mission against terror in the name of us all. That response honours those we have lost. May their memory be a blessing, not just to their families, not just to the Jewish community, but to our entire nation always. And for those that are considering marching over the weekend, I ask them to reflect with all human dignity, grace and understanding, and to stop and to stand back. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is the leader of Manchester City Council, Bev Craig.
Friends, I'm not going to stand here with our Mayor of Greater Manchester and speak at length with empty words. I just want you to know this. What we saw yesterday, an attack on the streets of our city that attacked Jews for being Jews on the holiest day, we will fight that and we will stand against that. And I need you to know our thoughts are with those who have lost loved ones, those who have been injured, their family, their friends and their community. We will take from this the strength that we hear in front of us today, but know this, and this is an important and powerful message about our city. Our city has been made great by the generations that have built the Manchester that we know and we love today. Our Jewish residents, over generations, have built this city that we see. An attack on you is an attack on all of us, and we will not stand for it. We must change, we must do differently. So here today, not just words, but a commitment to action. We will be open to meeting with every single one of you that wants to hear from us. We were here to listen, we're not here to lecture. This is about our city healing. This is about us saying a terrorist attack on the streets of Manchester attacks us all. It attacks our diversity, it attacks our democracy, and it attacks who we are as a very essence. We stand with you, we love you, we support you, and we want to hear from you. So that's all that I have to say today, but thank you for coming today in the rain.
This was an appalling anti-Semitic attack on our Jewish friends and neighbours, and we are here today because, as Bev said, we care about you, we love you, we value what you have given to Greater Manchester over the years. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. That is the permanent principle, the firm foundation on which this city region has been built by you, by us, by everyone here over centuries. That is who we are. And we will not let this break us in any way, shape or form. I salute the strength of our Jewish community. I visit the Jewish community with colleagues behind me all the time. Oh.
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you.
I salute the power of all of your community organisations, and let me say something about the Community Security Trust. The people who mobilised yesterday morning, the minute the call came, those who stood there behind the door, preventing what could have been something much worse. A community that is strong and supports each other, that has each other's backs. But can I say to you, we have your back too. That is us, that is Greater Manchester, and will always be that way. But we also should say thank you today to our emergency services who are there in your hour of need, in our hour of need. The fire service who were on site and supported, and the ambulance service, but of course Greater Manchester Police, whose officers showed exemplary courage in dealing with the situation before them. And I would like you actually to now welcome the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, who leads our police force so brilliantly, to address you all. Thank you.
Good on you, Andy.
Good afternoon. It is, for me and all of my officers, a source of profound regret that once again, in the immediate aftermath of yet another anti-Semitic terrorist atrocity on our streets, that we come together to stand in solidarity with those who mourn
I can pledge to you that GMP are with you as one in continuing relentlessly, professionally, ruthlessly, all of those who would harm our Jewish community and other communities across Greater Manchester, where hate is the originator of their intent. I echo the Mayor's, I think, very justified praise of the CST, who are a brilliant example and I reference the CST specifically because they are the embodiment of our mutual determination to keep our communities safe, and for you to have your absolute God-given right to live your Jewish lives as you are entitled to do in our country. And lastly, I too would reflect upon the fact that we, in mourning those who have lost their lives, are literally reflecting upon people who gave their lives in the very act of protecting the lives of others. There can be no greater sacrifice, and our thoughts and prayers are with them, their families, and all of you. God bless you.
Thank you. For me, it was as an 11-year-old schoolboy in Manchester I discovered that the Jewish boys in my class, who were probably about between 10 and 20% of us, were just the same as me. The only main difference was that on a Friday afternoon in winter they got to miss the last lesson and go home early. I learned then that the common humanity that binds us together is more important than any differences that we have, and I've sought to live that out ever since, not least in my 12 years now as Bishop of Manchester. Today, the heavens are weeping with us, typical Manchester weather. And we, whatever background we come from, whatever faith we represent or none, we too are weeping with our Jewish sisters and our Jewish brothers. And we do pledge ourselves to action. And that action will often be quite small actions, just the way we put our arms around each other, just the way we greet each other, just the way we take the effort to understand each other's lives and to respect each other's traditions. Those are the small acts of love that matter, because, as I've said so many times over this last 24 hours, hate will never defeat hate. Only love will defeat hate. That's what I pledge myself to today. That's what I know the faith communities of Greater Manchester pledge themselves there to. I hope that we all pledge ourselves to that as well today. God bless you all.
Thank you, Bishop. I want to add my thanks to the thanks that have already been given. Thanks on behalf of our community, the Eaton Park Shul community, and all the wider Jewish community. I want to say thank you again to those special and heroic men who stopped that terrorist getting into my shul and stopped much worse things happening. I want to say thank you to the emergency services, first of all to the police, who came to our aid at the time of our greatest need, who were there for us, for the fire service, for the ambulance service, those who tended to the wounded, to all those who have helped us and supported us through this most terrible and darkest of times. I want to say thank you to all of the dignitaries here and all of their kind words, and I want to say thank you to you, to all of you who have come out today to show your support. Thank you from the very bottom of the Eaton Park Shul heart. As Bishop Walker said, the skies are weeping, and right they may. Because yesterday, evil and darkness stalked the roads of Manchester, stalked the steps of my shul, and brought death and sorrow and injury. And that demands a response. It demands a political response and a practical response. But I think it demands, as Bishop Walker said, a spiritual response as well. My friends, my community members, Adrian and Melvin, died as Jews, for being Jews. And so I beg all of the Jewish community here to please strengthen not the opposite, but strengthen your lives as Jews. The only way to defeat darkness, the only way to defeat unholiness is with goodness. I beg you today, Erev Shabbos, to please give a little bit of charity, to make sure you light Shabbos candles, and perhaps most significantly, that murderer tried to shut down our shul. He shut down the shul building, but he didn't shut down our prayers. We did all the prayers of Yom Kippur, and we continued this morning with Shachris, and we're going to continue over Shabbos, because he will not stop us from connecting to our Father in heaven. And so I ask you, please, daven, go to shul, show your strength and your pride, and let us show that we are not cowed. As Jews, we always rebuild, we always recover, we always return stronger, and that is what we will do. And to all of our friends, all of our non-Jewish friends here of all faiths and none, I thank you on behalf of all of our community for your support at this most critical of times. We needed your warm embrace, and we're grateful for it, because we know we are not alone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Wish you a good Shabbos and a Shabbat Shalom, a peaceful Shabbos for you and your families, for all of Am Yisrael, and indeed for all of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the service.
That was a quite extraordinary vigil that then turned into a set of speeches delivered there at the Heaton Park Synagogue in Greater Manchester. It began beautifully. Rabbi Daniel Walker of that synagogue talked of two wonderful men snatched away who will never come home. He said, we are looking for two things now, representation and hope. He nodded to a sign on the front row that said, no more words, we need action. And then the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, stepped up to the crowd there on the back row with an umbrella, shielded from an unrelenting Manchester rain. The crowd heckled him mercilessly. Shame on you, they cried at the Deputy Prime Minister. You have blood on your hands, they cried at David Lammy. Nobody wants you here today, a woman screamed out. You could hear the desperation in her voice. Jews don't want to live here anymore, another woman cried. You could hear genuine pain, genuine frustration in their voices. David Lammy then proceeded to speak, saying, we stand with you against terrorism, and the crowd they just weren't having it. The crowd just weren't having it. David Lammy was sent out there, a mourner who got married at that synagogue before those speeches spoke, said to our reporter, Anna Riley, where is Keir Starmer today? Where is the Prime Minister? And she said if he was here, he'd be sent home packing. We don't want the Prime Minister here. There's no wonder they sent David Lammy out today to, I guess, to some credit to him, he faced the music and he was absolutely eviscerated by the community at that synagogue and sent packing back to London. It was a quite extraordinary outpouring of raw, visceral emotion. It wasn't hatred, it was desperation. It was sadness. It was a demand for something to change. No more kumbaya, no more thoughts and prayers, no more lighting candles. When will the cancer of anti-Semitism actually be stamped out in this country rather than pretending any longer it doesn't exist? Waiting very patiently for this powerhouse to join me as the writer and the journalist Nicole Lampert. Nicole, I saw you on the screen there watching in on that service, and let's start with the good bits. It was incredibly moving and beautiful at the beginning with the Hebrew. I didn't understand what he was saying, but it sounded so moving, it sounded so wonderful. I could see that you were welling up. Let's just begin by park David Lammy to one side for a minute. We'll come to him. Let's start with the wonderful outpouring of the Jewish community coming together. Let's start there.
Yeah, I suppose we've come together in sadness, and I suppose everyone there will appreciate the people of different faiths who came out to show their solidarity. It looks like there were quite a lot of people there. I personally have had lots of messages from friends, people I don't know, checking in on me. My husband's from that community, but I think they're checking in with all their Jewish friends and making sure that they feel okay. But mainly, I think the Jewish community, we feel huge sadness and we feel huge anger, and that was palpable, wasn't it? Really palpable.
And Nicole, you're on the show today because you wrote, I think, a really moving piece. You work for the Sun newspaper, and you concluded the same thing. Politicians have got blood on their hands, and you said to all of them, very moving, you said to the politicians expressing surprise, to the BBC wondering why it could have happened, and to all of the establishment who have spent the last 2 years attacking Israelis as Nazis and are now crying crocodile tears about the terrorist attacks against Jews in Manchester, I say you could have stopped this.
The ultimate chutzpah, if I can use that word, the cheek of the government said David Lammy, of all people. This is someone who has ramped up the hatred against Israel. And the idea that he should talk about us fighting terrorism when this government has rewarded terrorism by giving it a state, the Palestinian state. They've redrawn maps which include the most holy parts of Jerusalem and pretended that they are suddenly a Palestinian state. These are people who have allowed terrorist supporters to go on the streets of London, Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow, all of the cities, all of the towns all over the country, and even allowed it to happen last night in Manchester. That is the ultimate cheek. And that sums up where we have been over the last 2 years. And I kind of feel filled with fury. And the British Jewish community, we have traditionally been a kind of keep our head down community. We are very aware that we are probably the only Jews in the entire Europe that haven't been killed for hundreds of years. Most of Europe was occupied, of course, by the Nazis, and most of European Jewry got to see what their neighbours would do to them. Because Britain bravely fought against the Nazis, we didn't have to see that. But we have always been aware that if we maybe raise our heads above the parapet too much, then anti-Semitism would start. But it's been so bad over the last few years that you can see people have begun to talk out. And today you really saw that boiled up fury. And really, I've never seen my community this angry. I think, I summed it up yesterday in my article, but I'm shocked to see it so palpably. But not surprised, because we have been warning for 2 years now, even longer. Obviously, Lammy was part of the Labour government. He put forward Jeremy Corbyn as a leader. Keir Starmer sat in the government in cabinet with Keir Starmer. These are people who sat within an anti-Semitic organisation. And then since they've taken government, or even before that, the Tories too, they allow these hate marches to continue with this calls to kill Jews, globalise the Intifada. That is what it was. And the calls to eradicate Israel, which we heard on the streets of Manchester last night. where have they been? What have they done? And everyone is tired of words and platitudes. We don't want that anymore. What we want is the end of terror supporters on our streets. And we don't want them to just say to people who are going to be protesting on Saturday, please don't go, it might be offensive. We want them to say, if you go and you're supporting a terrorist organisation, which they have said Palestine Action is, then you'll be arrested and you will have the book thrown at you as it was with other people.
Nicole Lampert, we just saw pictures there. Looks like Angela Rayner and Lucy Powell looking somewhat bedraggled in the rain in the crowd there. So the Labour Party have turned up. I think the community spoke.
Yeah, I hope they hear the anger and the fury, because I just spoke to someone who had been she's been looking after one of the hostages. She was in a meeting with Keir Starmer, and she said it's like they don't understand the threats that we have. They don't understand terrorism, and I personally don't understand how they can't understand it. We have had terrorism in this country. We've had Islamic terrorism, and surely the lesson we all need to learn is you don't appease it. It has to be fought. That's what Israel's doing. We're not here to discuss Israel, but it's all the same thing. We are fighting against terrorism, and we have allowed it to be appeased in this country. It's been appeased by Labour. We've had Labour MPs being attacked by Islamists. We've had places vandalised. We've seen this particularly affecting the Jewish community, but it has also affected Labour MPs who definitely saw it as they were during the last election. So they know it's there, but they're pretending it's not, and they're pretending that just with a few nice words we're all going to make friends again. That's not going to happen. Unless something is done, this isn't going to go away.
Nicole Lampert, I thought an anger that's rare is an anger that resonates. And I think that's what we saw today from the Jewish community, because, as you say, very quiet, respectful, law-abiding. As the Speaker said there, we love Great Britain. We proudly fly the Union Jack. Can our enemies say the same? Incredibly moving, and so much to reflect upon. Thank you for joining us today. And you wrote an excellent piece. I think you really summarised things, Nicole. And thanks for waiting patiently. I could see how moved you were watching that service, and I could also see how furious you were too. But thank you sincerely for joining us today here on GBNews. It means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's cross now back live to Crumpsall, the scene there. And I can join GBNews reporter, national reporter Will Godley. Will, incredible scenes there. The crowd where you are, barracking, heckling the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy. In no uncertain terms, the Jewish community finally made its voices heard on the very streets where you are.
Yeah, there's no doubt David Lammy would have heard their message here today, as that vigil behind me is just finishing. Members of the community here making their way home after the vigil, which saw a number of community leaders speak on their sorrow, their grief and their anger at the attack that happened 24 hours ago today. We also had the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy speaking here, and he started his speech by addressing the crowd saying friends, and that was when the booing started. He was told, we are not friends, and as he continued to speak, people here were chanting stop the marches, of course referring to pro-Palestine marches that have happened across the country, and particularly in London, where one is planned for this weekend. A particular message to Westminster, of course, where David Lammy resides, telling him to stop those marches. And someone particularly vocal was Joanne joining me now. Joanne, you were shouting very, very loudly for David Lammy to stop the marches from rather far back where we are, but no doubt he heard you. Why did you want him to hear your message today?
Because it's got to stop, because these marches have been going on now for 2 years, and every time you go into Manchester or you go on Facebook or Instagram, there's marches just oozing hatred, and infidada and about Hamas, and you've got people with masks on, and it's very scary to even walk around Manchester. And I wanted to get my message to him. So I heard a point in his speech, and what he said was he wants to help us. And I thought, OK, help us, stop the marches. See, my voice is very croaky. And I know I was further back, but I think he did hear me. And I had to scream, stop the marches. And yes, I did get rather passionate. It's just, to me, simple. Stop the marches. It will stop spreading the hate, and then people won't go into synagogues and kill people, or even, I've walked on the streets, I've been called a baby killer, I've been told to go home, which I'm assuming they meant Israel, but I actually was born just down the road here in Crumpsall Hospital. So I am home. This is my home.
And it's a huge moment of upset and terror in your community here. And Greater Manchester Police this afternoon asking people who are planning to protest tomorrow in support of Palestine to not do that. And the police in London asking people to do the same. How do you feel that those protests could still happen?
They will happen. It happened last night. There was one last night on the day of this terror attack. Why was it not stopped? He can stop it. Keir Starmer could stop it. I wanted him here today at 3 o'clock. But no, he came this morning when we weren't here. And believe me, I would have done it to him as well. I've tried signing petitions. I've tried signing emails. They don't care. Just stop the marches and it will stop spreading hate. I got married in that synagogue. My grandkids go to the school just over there. I mean, what have we got to do? Do they want more of us killed? Just stop it.
Joanne, I can hear how passionately you've been shouting, from how hoarse your voice is. Another group of people here today, the Bergson family. Let's just come around here and Anna, speak to you. You know Rabbi Walker, who is from the Heaton Park Synagogue. What was your reaction to yesterday's terror attack? And you were particularly worried about him and his safety.
We were. So my husband's also a community rabbi of the St. Anne's Synagogue. So we were in St. Anne's in our synagogue yesterday. When I arrived at about 10 o'clock in the morning, there was quite a few extra police people outside. And I thought, oh, what's happened? And straight away I was told there's been an incident in Heaton Park Synagogue. And straight away I thought Rabbi Walker, because, as I say, he's a colleague and also a dear friend. So we had to wait the entire day, Yom Kippur, to hear the solid details. And the entire day, obviously, we were praying fervently for everybody involved and sadly the people who've been killed.
And I mean, you were telling me earlier how unsafe it feels in the community despite the police being here, because even your children, when they go to school, they have to be escorted by police. How does that feel as a mother?
It's you try and put a brave face on, but it shouldn't be like this. We should be able to be in this country living relaxed, peaceful lives. The Jewish people only make up less than 1% of the entire population, and we really positively contribute to this great country. So we should be able to live not in fear. Our children, they have police at the gates of school in the morning at drop-off and pick-up times. It shouldn't have to be like this.
Anna, thanks for joining us on GB News. A community here that are standing united in grief. Rabbi Walker's wife here as well, standing with her community. Everyone here is grieving as they continue to process this horrific attack.
Thank you, Will Godley there. Raw emotions from the streets of a rain-soaked Heaton there in Manchester. Who can blame them? Extraordinary scenes. Just to recap, a few moments ago, a vigil took place in Manchester for the victims of the attack. And the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, he got a very, very frosty reception.
Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! On the ambassador! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
And people we spoke to in the crowd before Mr Lammy spoke told us, they asked us, where is Sir Keir Starmer? Where is the Prime Minister? I think we now know the answer. Sir Keir Starmer perhaps did not want to face that crowd. Mr Lammy instead was sent out to face the music. And the Jewish community there, they made themselves heard. Well, today the Metropolitan Police have urged pro-Palestine organisers, not told them, they've urged them to cancel or to delay protests in the wake of the attack, with the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood condemning yesterday's demonstrations as un-British when she spoke to GB News earlier today.
those messages are utterly disgraceful. They are fundamentally un-British in nature, as far as I'm concerned. I would have wanted to see people in this country, step back from protesting for at least a few days, just to give the Jewish community here a chance to process what has happened.
Well, it's an astonishing moment. For more reaction now, let's go to GBNews national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, incredible scenes on the streets of Manchester there. The Rabbi Daniel Walker said the clouds are weeping today, and as well they may. But things got really, really spicy when David Lammy faced the crowd. Shame on you, the locals shouted. You have blood on your hands. You're not welcome here today. Jews don't want to live here anymore. And Charlie Peters, the specific and precise source of their desperation, as well as, of course, the terrible, terrible scenes yesterday, are the hate marches, as they called them, that are still happening. They happened on the very night of those deaths yesterday, and they're due to take place tomorrow, and they want them stopped, and they seem to be facing a political class that seem very tin-eared to that, Charlie Peters.
Yes, Martin, and just hearing from our national reporter Will Godley on the ground there, speaking to those in the crowd, saying that they were shouting at David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, because of those protests that they were seeing regularly. Now, of course, as this government has said regularly, and as the police continually point out, we do have freedom of speech in this country. There is the right to protest, but the Met is urging protesters planning to carry out these Palestine-related demonstrations to think again this weekend and to not conduct this 1,000-strong planned protest or planned gathering in Trafalgar Square by the group Defend Our Juries, because Sir Mark Rowley, the Commissioner, he won't call it a protest, he's calling it a gathering because it's in support of a terrorist organisation. That's Palestine Action. Because Defend Our Juries, the group putting ahead this gathering, say that they will be holding up placards saying, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine Action." The police have called on them to cancel tomorrow's protest before the disturbing news emerged about that incident at the Manchester synagogue. And the Defend Our Juries group went on to say that yesterday's attack was actual terrorism. We join others across the country in condemning it. We urge the Home Secretary and the police to prioritise protecting the community instead of arresting entirely peaceful protesters. But of course, Martin, the law, as it has been changed to reflect Palestine Action, means that regardless of the peacefulness of the act of sitting down and holding a placard, it is considered a terror offence if you are seen to be promoting or supporting a terrorist organisation. And as Palestine Action has been prescribed, the police has a duty to see the law being carried out, and that would mean arrests for anyone who does that. And we've seen several of these gatherings and protests now in central London, in Westminster, with hundreds of arrests at many of those events, and the police will be required to do the same. What they're asking for from Defend Our Juries and the Palestine Action gatherers is to say that now's not the right time. They need to prioritise resources to dealing with the protection of synagogues. And they've also said that they're increasing their protection for mosques amid concerns about wider community tension. So a lot for the police to be dealing with this weekend. And we saw, didn't we, yesterday, Martin, that many of the protests being organised across the country were organised after this terror attack went ahead. Now, Martin, speaking to British Jews last night at a synagogue marking the end of the Yom Kippur fast and listening to Jews as we have all day on GB News today, a lot of them are pointing out the fact that there is currently a peace plan on the table for the conflict between Israel and Gaza. That if there is a pro-Palestinian protest to conduct at the moment, it should be anti-Hamas, because the US, Israel, all the Arab nations and the Palestinian Authority have approved of that peace plan. The only people who haven't gone ahead with it are the Hamas terrorist organisation. So Jews are saying, and many people who are supportive of Israel and people across the country, British Jews that we've been speaking to, are saying that it's not right to protest against Israel. It's time to protest against Hamas.
OK, Charlie Peters, thank you very much. And David Lammy there imploring, saying, for those planning to march, I ask them to reflect and to stand down. It's falling on deaf ears. We've heard from Defend Our Juries responding, action to go ahead as planned. Charlie Peters, they have powers to stop marches if they want. We know it. You know. Let me put this to you. If somebody was killed at a mosque, do you sincerely think the Metropolitan Police would allow a far-right march to happen tomorrow? Charlie Peters, you know they'd stop it. You know it.
Well, the police have said that they don't have the powers to stop protests. That is what Sir Mark Rowley is insisting. But it's interesting, Martin, isn't it, at this stage, that we're now finally hearing government ministers calling on protesters to think again. We haven't seen that at all since, I think, October the 7th, and the protests started very soon after that attack. Why is it now that they've now called on protesters to think again? Was the atmosphere of anti-Semitism potentially associated with these protests not considered severe enough before? Is it only after a terrorist attack takes place that they feel the need to call on protesters to think again? And is it really just a resources issue behind this call from Sir Mark Rowley? Because Sir Mark will be using mutual aid, calling in police forces around the country to come and support his operation if he needs to. So a lot of British Jews also asking today that the timing is very curious. Has their patience finally run out in the government with these marches? Are they finally exposing themselves to what these marches are really about, less about Palestine in the view of their critics and more about attacking Israel, and the accusation being spread that a lot of these marches actually are promoting anti-Semitism?
Yeah, I mean, one of the learned elders there in Manchester said he believes that half of the people there might support ending the war on Gaza. He said half of them simply hate the Jewish race, Jewish people. Thank you very much, Charlie Peters, for your full update. Now, joining us now is the Imam and the President of the Oxford Institute for British Islam, Dr. Taj Hogi. Dr. Taj, thank you for waiting patiently. I was really, really keen to get you on today because particularly what Rabbi Daniel Walker there said at the synagogue is the only way to defeat unholiness is to be holy. He also talked about we must tackle the hate preachers that operate within the United Kingdom, specifically and obviously talking about Muslim hate preachers. There's a feeling now amongst the Jewish community, no more words, we need action. What do you think that action should look like?
Now, first, let me express my utter disgust at this atrocity that happened yesterday. It should be condemned without any equivocation. What that guy did and others who support him is totally intolerable and totally unacceptable. And we as Muslims should not be condoning that. So that's on one level. And we really need to also and I need to extend my personal condolences to the victims and, of course, those who were injured. I think, this is not to be done. The Quran is actually quite clear. It says that mosques, temples, synagogues, and any other place of worship should never be attacked. And so what happened yesterday is totally against the Quran. And now we come to this issue of the hate preachers. I mean, this is the stuff that they bring in with them, the Taliban Islam, the Al-Qaeda Islam, the ISIS Islam. And this toxic version of my faith is gaining traction here. And the government and others should do something about it. Firstly, we should be banning all these people to come to this country who express this type of vitriolic hatred, not only against Jews, but also against other Muslims, because these preachers are also very much targeting people like me that don't toe their line. So, yes, we need to curb visas and entry requirements and impose entry requirements to these people. But I really want to bring this to the attention of you, Martin, and the GB listeners, that this is a major, major fight, a struggle. The liberal Muslims, the progressive Muslims like myself, we are in an uphill struggle because the government has turned a blind eye to these fanatics, fundamentalists and fruitcakes for all these decades. And right now, the chickens are coming home to roost. And what had happened yesterday in Manchester is really the ultimate vindication or proof that this policy of appeasing Muslim radicals, militants and extremists is not working at all.
It's not working at all. And, we have a situation now where we have a rabbi on the rain-soaked streets of Manchester saying Jews don't want to live here anymore. And, we're seeing people afraid to prayer and they're being afraid to pray because of radical Islam. Let's call this out for what it is. And if you know that, and if you know that, and if I know that, and most people in Britain know that, why don't the politicians know that? And why wouldn't they wake up and do something about it? Start putting hate preachers in jail, deport them, stamp it out.
Yes, but it's all about woke. It's all about woke political correctness and the electoral mathematics. I mean, especially the Labour Party is looking at where's our base? Our base is with these crazy fanatical Muslims in Bradford, Birmingham, and other places where Muslims predominate. And I think we really need to expose this, that this is not what Britain needs, this is not what it wants. And yes, any Jew, any Hindu, any Muslim, any Christian, anyone should be free to pray in this country. This country was founded on religious liberties and free expression. And I think, I would go and defend any Jew who's being attacked tonight or tomorrow or whatever. He or she has a total right to pray and to implement and practice his or her faith as they deem fit. And no one, certainly not any Muslims, especially this guy. For example, this guy, his name is Jihad Shami. So Jihad is already a giveaway. Jihad meaning fighter, meaning a militant. And Shami means he's from Syria. And so he's given, I don't know how, citizenship when he arrives here at age 6. I mean, how is this possible? And that's not another reason we are dishing out citizenship willy-nilly. We should really be taking a hard, cold look, especially at Muslims who are applying to become citizens. Do they have a track record of integration? Have they shown proof that they belong here? Have they shown any evidence that they will fight for this country and not against this country? These are all the criteria that should be implemented before any citizenship is granted to people from the Middle East and those who are of a Muslim background.
Dr. Taj Hogi, I often thank you for your words. And I want to especially thank you today, for being a Muslim who's brave to speak out and hold power to account. I think you're a wonderful man, and thank you especially for coming on at a dark and difficult time like this and speaking with a decent, moderate, humane and wonderful Muslim voice, Dr. Taj Hogi. Thank you, as ever, for joining us on GB News. Now, it's all so overwhelming, isn't it? Coming up to now 5 o'clock as the Metropolitan Police urged the organisers of this weekend's pro-Palestine protest to postpone them in light of the Manchester synagogue attack. We're debating whether it's time to ban these so-called hate marches. That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference
It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's 4:28. Now, following yesterday's attack in Manchester, police have urged pro-Palestine protesters to delay mass protests planned for this weekend. Now, the Metropolitan Police say the Manchester synagogue attack has caused significant fear and concern in communities in London, and they want to deploy every available officer to ensure the safety of Jewish Londoners instead of policing protests in Trafalgar Square. So should these protests take place tomorrow? Well, let's now have a debate about it. And let's speak with the editor-at-large of the Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen, and also the director of Israel Solidarity Movement, Keith Fraser. I'm going to start with you, if I could, Carl Hansen. Carl, tell us why you believe that the protests should go ahead as planned tomorrow.
Well, Israel isn't taking a weekend off its genocide. The UK government isn't taking a weekend off arming and supporting Israel. So, of course, the protests should go ahead as planned. And I think it's very important not to conflate Israel with the Jewish community here in the UK, because that's the logic that inspired yesterday's horrific attacks. And people who want to opportunistically exploit that tragedy to attack our right to protest are playing a very dangerous game.
OK, so, Carl, that's your ideological position, and we must all respect each other's differences of opinion. I want to put it to you, though. We just spoke with Jewish people at the synagogue there who've lost friends, who've been killed yesterday, and they just said, please, can you stop the marches tomorrow? We're scared. And you might think it's not about Jewish people. You might think it's about the state of Israel. They don't. And they said to us, does somebody else need to get killed before you listen?
We've had 2 years of a genocide that has inspired millions of people to take to the streets. And yesterday's attack was absolutely horrific. But it's been a remarkably peaceful protest movement. And it is so important to emphasize that this is a protest movement against the actions of the Israeli state and the complicity of the UK government. People are not protesting Jewish communities in the UK. They're protesting a foreign nation state committing a genocide and our government. And it's our right to protest it. And the protest should go ahead as planned.
OK, let's now bring in Keith Fraser from the Israel Solidarity Movement. Keith, you've been listening patiently there to Carl's opinion. What's yours?
Well, listen, people like him love these kind of labels, genocide. I mean, what kind of genocide is there when you've got a greater population? I think it's something like 2% increase in the population of Gaza since the start of October the 8th. If that's a genocide, then Israel are very, very bad at it, particularly considering the weaponry they've got. So let's cut out the labels. This march is one of umpteen marches. They are hate marches. Not one person at these marches have been chanting against Hamas. I guarantee you this march tomorrow will say nothing about the peace deal or wanting to push the peace deal. It's about anti-Jewish, anti-Israel battering. And you know what? People like Shabana Mahmoud, who said it protects, it's basically dishonourable and fundamentally un-British to have these marches in light of what happened yesterday. This is a lady who's been going on these marches for the last 10, 20 years. She's a lady who stopped trade at a Sainsbury's supermarket in 2014 because there was a march or a rally outside the supermarket because they were selling Israeli goods. What a two-faced woman we have, and what a disgrace we have that Keir Starmer appointed someone like that, effectively an Islamist herself, as the
careful.
the
No.
Home Secretary.
We need to be very, very careful, Keith, when we use labels like that, please. I understand tensions are running high, but let's be very, very careful when we use labels like that, especially about an elected representative. Keith, we need to just be a bit careful. I understand you're extremely frustrated, but those kind of labels can have consequences, and they could get me in trouble on the show too. Let's temper that down.
You can pick up all our history.
Yeah, Keith, could I specifically ask you about what's happened? I don't know if you saw the scenes on the streets of Manchester earlier on today when David Lammy was harangued by the crowd. They were shouting, "Shame on you, you have blood on your hands."
Well, David Lammy is the worst foreign secretary we've had, in a long time that I can remember. Unfortunately, in this country, we have an organisation or a scheme called Prevent to stop people like the people like yesterday, Jihad al-Shami, from going around killing innocent people because they're Westerners, because they have Judeo-Christian values. I don't call it prevent, I call it promote, because people like your other guest, people like Shabana Mahmood have been going to these hate fest rallies, like the media, like the BBC, like LBC, like Channel 4, have been promoting this false, disgusting rhetoric against Israel, the only democratic in the Middle East. Your guest here likes to call it a rogue state. Did you know 1 out of 7 prescription medicines in the UK are medicines made in the state of Israel? If you really are against this rogue state, as you call it, don't go to the doctor and pick up a prescription next time you're ill, or pick up your smartphone, which has Israeli technology in it.
OK, Keith, Carl Hansen has been waiting very patiently for his turn. Carl, let's put that to you now. Shabana Mahmood's specific plea to yourself and to people planning to march tomorrow, this is profoundly un-British. Do the decent thing and take a day off.
Well, the right to protest is profoundly British. It was hard won over many generations. There is hardly a more British thing than exercising your right to protest and dissent against the government. And moreover, the British public is in large support of sanctions against Israel and in opposition to its crimes. So if anybody is being un-British, it's the Home Secretary who wants to defy British public opinion on this policy and wants to attack our right to protest.
And you will plan to march tomorrow. You're going out there.
I think everybody who cares about stopping the genocide in Palestine and opposing the complicity of our government should exercise that right. And there is no contradiction between that and being appalled by the horrendous anti-Semitic terrorist attack yesterday. In fact, the only consistent position is to oppose both, unlike your other guest.
OK, there we have it. Once again, never the twain shall meet, but I did attempt to bring you two gentlemen together to at least have some kind of civil concourse. I think we need to do more of that if we have any hope of moving. Go on then, quickly.
Well, the gentleman keeps talking about it's a British value to demonstrate, and yes, it is. But I would like to add that not one of these hate rallies, and I have been there, not one has said anything anti-Hamas. Will the rally tomorrow say anything about promoting the peace deal? I can guarantee you it will not. These are hate marches. People like your guest who goes on about these labels like genocide. Like I said to you, the population of Gaza has risen 2.02% since October the 7th. That is not genocide, my friend.
OK, gentlemen, we do have to leave it there now. I'm going to run out and miss the news. Thank you very, very much indeed. That's the editor-at-large at Tribune magazine, Carl Hansen, and the director of the Israel Solidarity Movement, Keith Fraser. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. Those more still to come to now at 5 o'clock, including Reform UK on a series of council by-elections. Yesterday, 6 out of 7, I believe, taking a huge number of votes off of the Conservatives. I'll be joined by one of the victorious candidates next. The first is your headlines with Sophia Hill.
Martin, thank you. Very good afternoon. It's just gone 4:30. These are your top stories. Now, crowds heckled the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, shouting "Shame on you," whilst a vigil took place in Crumpsall to honour the victims and the families from the Manchester synagogue terror attack.
Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
Baroness Michelle Mone says that she has no wish to return to the Lords as a Conservative peer in a letter to Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. Sir Keir Starmer has welcomed the appointment of Dame Sarah Mullally as the first female Archbishop of Canterbury. And actress Dame Patricia Routledge has died at the age of 96. She was best known for her role in the comedy TV show Keeping Up with the Appearances as Mrs. Bouquet. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more news at the top of the hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Hello again, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is now arriving, expected to bring spells of heavy rain and more especially very strong winds, disruptive and damaging wind gusts with northwestern parts of the UK at greatest impacts from the strongest winds. We're talking about parts of Northern Ireland and Western and Northern Scotland in particular. In fact, for many parts of the UK, 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts are likely, but the wind gusts peak across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland through the evening, with the risk of 80 miles an hour for Northern Ireland. Western Scotland seeing 100 mile-per-hour wind gusts in some of the most exposed spots. The strongest winds then transfer across the rest of Northern Scotland overnight, accompanied by heavy spells of rain. Another spell of rain pushes across England and Wales, bringing some lively weather. Sharp increases in the wind and rain overnight, briefly, as that unsettled weather moves through. But across much of Scotland, it's still very windy first thing Saturday. Impacts from transport disruption to power disruption likely, as well as the risk of flooding because of the wet weather. And that rain will continue along with that strong wind throughout much of Saturday. It's a blustery start across the whole of the United Kingdom. Showers feeding into Wales and the southwest. Wind gusts here of 50 or 60 miles an hour. But the strongest winds during Saturday will be the northeast of Scotland. Here, 70 to 85 miles an hour, so expect ferry cancellations and other disruptions to transport, along with dangerous conditions around coasts throughout tonight and into much of Saturday. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, it's certainly blustery out there. Those strong winds bringing frequent showers into the north and the west. Accumulated rain across the northwest highlands reaching 100 millimetres. But after lunchtime, I think those winds will gradually start to moderate. It's not until the end of the day that we see the worst of the winds come to an end. And then Sunday is still blustery, it's still showery, but nowhere near as bad as we're expecting through Storm Amy.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Windsor and Maidenhead, a road collision on the westbound M4 between junction 7 and 8 has caused lane closures. The A75 is closed near Mousewell due to a collision, so road users should consider alternative routes. In Northamptonshire, on the M1 southbound between junction 16 and 15A, a traffic collision has closed one lane, causing 30-minute delays. The M67 westbound between junction 4 and 3 in Tameside has a broken down vehicle, causing congestion. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and cross-country services are affected by poor weather, with disruptions expected between Darlington and York. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Time is 4:41 on this Friday afternoon. You with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, Reform in UK won 6 council by-elections overnight, with the party's Doge chief Zia Yousaf hailing the results as staggering. Now, one of the seats won last night was the Hutton South ward on Brentwood Council. The Reform candidate Russell Quirk gained with a mighty 30.2% swing away from the Conservatives. Now, the seat was formerly one of the safest Conservative council seats in Britain, but no longer. It's now succumbed to the turquoise tidal wave. And the Reform UK councillor of Brentwood Council, Russell Quirk, is with me in the studio, as well as GB News' political correspondent Catherine Forster. Welcome to the show, Russell Quirk. An extraordinary turnaround in what was traditionally, until very, very recently, one of the safest Conservative areas in Britain. Tell us about the election.
And it's only ever been a Conservative seat. So Hutton South is, what was formerly known as a true blue area, and we absolutely reversed that last night. So I achieved, with the team, I might add, it's not my election victory, it's very much a team effort, 46% of the vote for reform. The Conservatives were pushed into second place with 30%. What's very notable is that the Labour vote was, I would have to say, embarrassingly decimated. They polled 28% in the last elections in May 2024. They achieved about 14% yesterday. The Liberal Democrats too. They went from 16% to 6%. So Reform, interestingly, have taken votes from every single other party. We even reduced the Green vote, you won't believe this, from 11% to 5%. The Greens are voting for Reform.
So, Russell, what's changed? What are people telling you about? I mean, local elections are often fought on potholes, on wheelie bins, but is this something different now? Are we at a time where it's almost like a referendum on the government? What's happening?
Yeah, it is. Two things are going on. The apathy that exists in the local council, not just Brentwood, but of course Brentwood is very much part of Essex County Council. Essex County Council, of course, is the council that sent out an email recently to their staff saying that they may be offended and feel anxious by the Union flag. People in Essex do not like their flag being taken in vain and being talked upon as something that, frankly, is offensive. So you have a very backward and a very disliked Essex County Council, but also Brentwood Council now, which is a Lib-Con lab coalition almost, is apathetic, very officer-led. So this is a big problem now in local and I think national politics, where you have the blob, the civil service, whatever you want to call them, that have been absolutely infiltrated by left-leaning activism, and I think that was at play yesterday. So very much local issues. But of course, look, the national picture cannot be lost on the local electorate. The fact that not just a Reform very, very strong, not only are people like Nigel Farage, Zia Youssef and Lee Anderson saying the things that need to be said by way of the common man and woman in Britain and in Essex. But I think, frankly, the electorate are completely and utterly fed up with empty suit career politicians that are in it for themselves and do nothing to help their electorate. That's what we're seeing, and that was the revolution, the objection we saw last night.
Catherine Forster.
Well, I mean, it completely reflects where the polls are at the moment, and it's the reason why I was at Labour conference and the Lib Dems before, and I lost count very quickly how many times Nigel Farage and Reform were mentioned. I mean, these are, very significant results, I think. And also in Wigan, Reform have gained their first seat on a Labour-controlled council. And Lee Anderson was saying, they're smashing it in solid Labour seats. That's Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, is MP there.
That's a patch,
so this, of course, is why Labour are absolutely beside themselves with worry.
But the Conservatives too, of course. Now, bearing in mind, Essex is Kemi Badenoch's backyard.
Yeah, but look what you did to you did a lot of damage to them last year, but now you're coming after Labour.
So what must Alex Burkhart, who's the MP for Brentwood and Ongar, and Kemi Badenoch, who is the leader of the Conservative opposition, who happens to have the seat literally 5 or 6 miles up the road, how must they be feeling this morning? I mean, presumably they're considering their futures.
One thing that, of course, your opponents will say is that it's all great voting in a new guard, but have you got any experience? Can you deliver, or will you let these councils down?
What, me personally or as a party?
Well, let's start with you.
Right, me, I was a councillor for 8 years. I was a Conservative. I resigned from the Conservatives in 2014 because I was disgusted with the direction that the local Conservatives in Brentwood were going, and indeed the National Party. Don't forget, the Conservatives then were the first to start harping on about net zero. They opened migrant hotels. They increased tax, including corporation tax, from 19 to 25%, and they've overseen a huge increase in crime. I'll remind you, the Police and Fire Commissioner for Essex, Roger Hurst, has overseen a doubling of violent crime since he was elected, a doubling of sexual crime, and has halved the detection rate. So, yes, I have experience because not only was I a councillor for 8 years as a Conservative, then an independent, but also, don't you think we need real people in politics? I mean, forget the politicians, the career politicians that have gone through central office, been spads, been bad characters. I've spent 25 years in business. I've raised a family. I'm a real person.
But Reform is benefiting, isn't it? Just like Labour did last year because people were cross with the Conservatives. You're benefiting now because people are cross with the Conservatives and also very cross with the government. And because you haven't been in office, it's easy to make all sorts of grand promises and say what
you're trying to insinuate that reform
hear.
is a protest vote. The protest vote,
no,
the politics in Britain is the Lib Dems.
That you
look at what
haven't
happened
had
to the Lib Dems in
experience
Brentwood
of
last night.
government, and you've got these councils, but you are having a bumpy ride in some of them. So Warwickshire, for instance, the leader quit after 41 days. You've now got an 18-year-old in charge of a budget of £2 billion.
Yeah.
He hired political advisors on 150,000. There was the row about Nottingham Live. I'm just saying, it's not so easy when you're actually in charge.
Catherine, for the last 20 or 30 years, those politicians with lots and lots of experience, how's that gone for us so far?
OK, we have to leave it there. A spirited debate. Thank you very much. That's the newly elected councillor there on Brentwood Council, Russell Quirk. Thank you for coming in today. Appreciate your time. And thank you, of course, Catherine Forster there from Search Some Holiday Sun. Here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow across southern parts of Europe, and there is a lot of fine weather around, but not everywhere. The same band of rain that's been sweeping through today across the UK in association with Storm Amy is going to fringe into northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal, bringing some wet weather here. Elsewhere, generally dry for most, but some heavy, showery bursts of rain likely across more eastern parts, particularly affecting Greece at times. Otherwise, it's looking largely fine into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
While the organisers work, it is lunchtime for the guinea pigs. Let me give Helen you this.
Thank you. There we go. This is Ziggy, and she's one of our 7 rescue piggies that we brought along with us today.
And Helen, you're here with this amazing model village where the guinea pigs are enjoying.
Yeah.
Guinea pigs don't really need as much space as this, though, but it is nice.
It is lovely. I mean, you know, who wouldn't want your own pub and your own nail bar? But on a serious note, the reason we've built such a big enclosure here today is just to provide that message that bigger is always better. Guinea pigs love exploring, they love foraging, you know, it's really good for their mental well-being. So the bigger space you can provide them, the better. And I think ours are having a really nice time today.
Ziggy is getting through that lettuce leaf. I'll leave you to enjoy that. Thank you, Helen, for joining us. Come with me this way as the organisers are continuing to get the event underway here. You can hear the drilling going on because we've got dancing dogs here, because the show here is all about how music is impacting your pet's. Trip Hazard is a Trip Hazard here, and Lucy, who looks after Trip Hazard, you've been on Britain's Got Talent, came 5th on that. Also, European UK dog dancing champions. Right, yeah. How'd you get into this?
To be honest, we used to watch it at Crufts when I was younger, and I wasn't allowed a dog of my own, and I thought it was the most magical thing I'd ever seen, the bond between the dog and owner, and I just knew that when I got my first dog, I really wanted to give it a go.
And, I mean, if anyone fancies doing this at home, what's your advice?
Oh, find what your dog really, really loves, their favourite treats, their favourite toy, and definitely use that to teach them and reward them for the tricks.
Well, have you got a treat for me to perhaps test something out now? Rummaging around for a treat. Right, we've been practising this all morning. Wish me luck. Volt, 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 volt. Hey, there we go. Oh, it was better earlier, but that is something I've learned this morning.
The People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 4:51, you're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, the Met Office have issued amber weather warnings of severe storms to much of the country today. Storm Amy is set to bring wet and windy weather to much of Scotland, northwest England and northwest Wales, with gusts in excess of 95 miles an hour. Now, weather warnings are set to last into the weekend, with some counties in England closing their schools this afternoon. Hurrah for the kids, but not for our GB News Scotland reporter, Tony Maguire, who's up there hanging on to his hat. Tony Maguire, what's it like?
Hey, good afternoon, Martin. Nice to hear a warming voice this afternoon. It's about the only thing warm in about 50 square miles of my current location on the west coast here in Ayrshire. The white horses are rolling into the bay with a really nice picturesque view behind me, but that har and the really thick, dense rain is absolutely pounding. It's been like that really since about 2 o'clock this afternoon. And Britain is now kind of going into this layer cake of weather warnings, a series of amber for the north of Scotland, the entire west coast of Scotland, and of course Northern Ireland took a bit of a battering earlier on today, but more of Britain along the west all the way down kind of into England is getting that yellow warning for rain and high winds, and these are going to be continuing well into tomorrow. Not the greatest start to the weekend, it has to be said. Even worse if you're a commuter. Number of ferry sailings have cancelled from Cairnryan and Caledonian McBrairn, all in the Irish Sea and up the west coast of Scotland, and it's because of those extremely high winds and this, the first named storm of the season. The last time I was here was when Storm Éowyn hit. Remember that back in January? Well, at that storm we saw wind speeds in the north of Scotland of about 115 miles an hour. Not quite so fast this time, about 95, but more than fast enough for a few people to lose a hat. So, you know, I'm going to keep a good strong hold of that now. But the messaging is, as it always is, travel only if necessary, and please watch out for debris and other cautionary things out when you're out and about.
Well, take care there, Tony Maguire. If you're anything like me, you might find a swift side wind takes you into a local boozer, have a wee dram of something warming. Tony Maguire, you've earned it. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, loads more still to come between now and 6 p.m, including I'll be bringing you much more reaction from Manchester in the astonishing scenes earlier on as the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, was heckled by crowds. You are not welcome here. You have blood on your hands. David Lammy barracked in Manchester. You with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is now arriving, expected to bring spells of heavy rain and more especially very strong winds, disruptive and damaging wind gusts, with northwestern parts of the UK at greatest impacts from the strongest winds. We're talking about parts of Northern Ireland and Western and Northern Scotland in particular. In fact, for many parts of the UK, 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts are likely, but the wind gusts peak across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland through the evening, with the risk of 80 miles an hour for Northern Ireland. Western Scotland seeing 100 mile-per-hour wind gusts in some of the most exposed spots. The strongest winds then transfer across the rest of Northern Scotland overnight, accompanied by heavy spells of rain. Another spell of rain pushes across England and Wales, bringing some lively weather. Sharp increases in the wind and rain overnight, briefly, as that unsettled weather moves through. But across much of Scotland, it's still very windy first thing Saturday. Impacts from transport disruption to power disruption likely, as well as the risk of flooding because of the wet weather. And that rain will continue along with that strong wind throughout much of Saturday. It's a blustery start across the whole of the United Kingdom. Showers feeding into Wales and the southwest. Wind gusts here of 50 or 60 miles an hour. But the strongest winds during Saturday will be the northeast of Scotland. Here, 70 to 85 miles an hour, so expect ferry cancellations and other disruptions to transport, along with dangerous conditions around coasts throughout tonight and into much of Saturday. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, it's certainly blustery out there. Those strong winds bringing frequent showers into the north and the west. Accumulated rain across the northwest Highlands reaching 100 millimetres. But after lunchtime, I think those winds will gradually start to moderate. It's not until the end of the day that we see the worst of the winds come to an end. And then Sunday, is still blustery, it's still showery, but nowhere near as bad as we're expecting through Storm Amy.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Travellers on the M8 eastbound face restrictions at junction 24 due to a breakdown. The M4 eastbound is congested from junction 34 to 32. The M67 westbound has a lane closure due to a breakdown. The M1 southbound between junction 16 and 15A in Northamptonshire has a traffic collision causing 20-minute delays. And on the trains, South Western Railway is disrupted between Wimbledon and Woking. Avanti West Coast services are impacted by poor weather on various routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a happy Friday. It's 5 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting live across the UK. All the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. Here's what's coming up on today's action-packed show. The Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy was heckled at a Manchester synagogue vigil earlier on today. It was astonishing. Take a listen.
In introducing our Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, and before I do, please, we know how we all feel.
Much more on that later. The Deputy PM got a very frosty welcome in a very wet Manchester. And we spoke to one of the hecklers, Joanne, about why she spoke up at the vigil, and here's what she had to tell GB News.
I've tried signing petitions. I've tried signing emails. They don't care. Just stop the marches and it will stop spreading hate. I got married in that synagogue. My grandkids go to the school just over there. I mean, what have we got to do? Do they want more of us killed?
Incredible scenes there in Manchester, and the 2 men killed in that attack at the synagogue in Manchester have now been named as Adrian Dalby and Melvin Kravitz. And police have also named the suspected attacker as Jihad al-Shimi, who came to Syria as a child. What motivated Jihad? We'll bring you all the very latest from Manchester.
We don't want our Jewish community here in Britain to have to live a smaller Jewish life because of the fear of anti-Semitism.
The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has urged un-British pro-Palestine protesters to stand down ahead of a London march tomorrow, but the organisers have simply refused. And the suspected Manchester synagogue killer Jihad al-Shimi has been described as a British citizen of Syrian descent. Well, that means that any crimes would be logged as being committed by a British citizen. I'll be joined by a campaigner in the studio who calls these kind of things unjust and insists we need to start logging crime by country of birth.
It's bouquet. B-U-C-K-E-T. No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
Yeah, the actress Dame Patricia Routledge, known of course for playing Hyacinth Bouquet in the TV sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. She's died at the grand old age of 96, and I'll be joined by one of her co-stars from Keeping Up Appearances to pay tribute to a truly great British comedy legend. That's all coming up on today's show. Shame on you. You have blood on your hands. You are not welcome here today. Jews don't want to live here anymore. An astonishing outpour of raw emotion on the streets of outside the Manchester synagogue, where 2 were killed yesterday, towards the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, who was sent out to face the music in the Manchester rain. Incredible emotional scenes on the streets of Manchester. We'll be there shortly to talk to the locals about what motivated that incredible outburst. Get in touch usual ways, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. But that's time for your headlines, and here's Sophia Hill.
Martin, thank you. A very good afternoon. It's just gone 5 o'clock. These are your top stories. Now, crowds heckled the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy, shouting "Shame on you," whilst a vigil took place in Crumpsall to honour the victims of the Manchester synagogue terror attack.
Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
Daniel Walker's address to the crowds who had gathered to remember the 2 men killed.
Adrian and Melvin, 2 truly wonderful, special men whose lives were so truly snatched from them as they tried to pray as Jews on the holiest day of the year, on Yom Kippur.
Greater Manchester Police has now referred itself to a police watchdog after one of the synagogue terror attack victims suffered gunshot wounds that mistakenly came from one of their officers as they tried to shoot the killer. Sir Keir Starmer thanked emergency service workers who responded to the attack during his visit to Manchester earlier. The attacker responsible for the killings has been named as Jihad al-Shami. The 35-year-old British citizen of Syrian descent was shot dead 7 minutes after police were called to the scene. He came to the UK as a young child and was granted British citizenship in 2006 as a minor. His family has strongly condemned the heinous attack that happened as worshippers gathered on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Yesterday's events didn't stop pro-Palestine protests going ahead across the nation last night, and the Met Police are calling for such protests to be cancelled tomorrow. Elsewhere, Dame Sarah Mullally has been named as the next Archbishop of Canterbury, the first time a woman has been appointed that role in the Church of England's history. In a speech this morning, she described the Manchester synagogue terror attack as horrific and warned that hatred and racism of any kind cannot be allowed to tear us apart. The announcement comes almost a year since Justin Welby resigned from the role as spiritual leader of the Church of England due to a damning review into its handling of a sexual abuse scandal. In her first words since confirmation of her appointment, she said that whilst the role is a huge responsibility, she feels a sense of peace and trust in God to carry her.
I am deeply thankful to the people, the churches and communities of the Diocese of London. It is my deep privilege to have shared ministry with you for almost 8 years. It has not been easy to accept that I will be leaving you.
Baroness Michelle Mone says that she has no wish to return to the Lords as a Conservative peer in a letter to Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. It comes after a company linked to her must repay the government £122 million for breaching a contract for medical gowns during the COVID pandemic. PPE MedPro, which was set up by a consortium led by Mone's husband, Doug Barrowman, was paid millions to supply the gowns. But the protective equipment has been in storage since 2020 after the company failed to prove that they were correctly sterilised. Sean Diddy Coombs is in court and is set to be sentenced in New York this afternoon after he was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation of prostitution. He was convicted of flying people across the US for sexual encounters that he called freak-offs, including his girlfriends and male sex workers. The prosecution wants him to serve at least 11 years in prison, while Coombs' lawyers have asked for 14 months. Coombs is expected to address the judge before he was sentenced. And Storm Amy has been upgraded from a yellow to an amber warning for large parts of the UK. The north and the west of Scotland will be the worst hit by the storm, with a Met Office amber warning for damaging winds in place from 5 p.m. today until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. A yellow warning for winds in exposed areas has been issued for all of Scotland, Northern Ireland and large parts of North and West England and Wales. Schools in Northern Ireland have been told to close early today as Storm Amy sweeps in from the Atlantic, while the Forth Road Bridge in Scotland has been closed to all vehicles amid heavy rain and wind. And actress Dame Patricia Routledge has died at the age of 96.
My name is Bouquet. B-U-C-K-E-T. No, it's not bucket, it's bouquet.
She was best known for her role in the comedy TV show Keeping Up Appearances as Mrs. Bouquet. The show, which captivated audiences in the 1990s, attracted as many as 13 million viewers at its peak. Her versatility, a word that she did not relish because it implied, she said, not being very good at anything, took her career far beyond the range of TV sitcoms. Those are the latest headlines for now, but before I hand you back to Martin, let's just check in on the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of this afternoon's markets. The pound will buy you $1.347 and €1.147. The price of gold is £2,879.77 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 9,486 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, just to recap, if you're joining us on GB News this afternoon, a few moments ago, a vigil took place in Manchester for the victims of the attack. And the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, got a very, very frosty reception from locals indeed.
Palestine! Shame on you! Shame on you! Go to Palestine! Leave us alone!
Well, one of those hecklers spoke to GB News explaining why she decided to shout out.
I've tried signing petitions. I've tried signing emails. They don't care. Just stop the marches and it will stop spreading hate. I got married in that synagogue. My grandkids go to the school just over there. I mean, what have we got to do? Do they want more of us killed?
Emotional stuff there from the streets of Manchester. And just to recap, moments ago, we're in the wrong place there. We are now getting to a situation where there will be... Let's go live now to Crumpsall. GB News national reporter Will Godley is on the scene there for us. Will Godley, we saw there, you were speaking with Joanne. The streets now, the rainy streets of Manchester seem to have cleared, but about an hour ago, incredible scenes. The Deputy Prime Minister was absolutely barracked by the locals there.
Yeah, there was a huge number of people who turned out here despite the rain for the vigil here. People understandably, incredibly emotional, standing here united in their grief. And the City Council said in putting on this vigil, it was a space of reflection, and it started as that. But with people standing there emotional, highly emotional, when David Lammy took to the stage, that just proved to be very inflammatory to people who see him as not standing with the Jewish community. And he addressed the crowd as friends, and that was when the boos started, despite organisers pleading with people in the audience not to boo. They carried on as David Lammy continued his speech saying, "We stand with you united in grief." Well, they said back to him, shouting, "We are not friends with you. You have blood on your hands." And particularly one of the chants that got the crowd going was "Stop the marches," referring to the pro-Palestine marches, one of which took place in London last night, of course, on the evening after this horrific attack here in Manchester. And that emotion was visible to see when speaking with people after the vigil as well. Here's some of the people I spoke to afterwards.
I won't lie to you, we're scared, anxious, parents with children like myself. We worry for our children, for them to have to grow up to know that there's a part of the community which can do something like this is terrifying as a parent. I'm saying one I was injured trying to lock the doors was a good friend of mine from school.
Well, behind me, that police investigation continues here. There was just an ambulance here behind the police cordon, and also there's a police forensic van as that investigation continues, with 3 people arrested, facing questioning by Greater Manchester Police. Many police officers here for that vigil to take place, barricading one of the roads into where the vigil took place, with police vans, 3 of them, blocking any cars from getting here and any sort of similar attack taking place. Of course, a huge number of Jewish people here united in their grief, and that's something that remains here today. That emotion still, as Shabbat is about to begin here at sundown on Friday, the community here still reeling from yesterday's horrific attack.
And Will Godley in a rain-soaked Manchester there. Earlier on, Rabbi Daniel Walker from the synagogue there said, I think beautifully, the clouds are weeping in Manchester, and as well they may. The only way to defeat unholiness is to be holy. Incredible scenes there earlier on in Manchester. Thank you very much, Will Godley, for joining us there in a very rain-soaked Manchester. Well, I'm joined in the studio by the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Now, Rob, welcome to the show. I wanted to get you in because this case highlights something that you and I have been speaking about for a long time on GB News, and it's about how crime is recorded. If somebody is of Syrian descent or whichever nation's descent and they become a British citizen and they commit a crime, that crime is recorded as a crime committed by a British citizen, and it kind of queers the waters. And you and I both know that a lot of countries around the world have decided that that's not the most efficient way of recording crime, because we lose people in the system. And this case, you believe, highlights the notion that we should change how we record crime in the United Kingdom.
I think it's essential that we do change the way in which we produce statistics, crimes by nationality. I mean, we've only just been able to get that information, but I think actually the idea that an individual who perhaps has been born and raised and sort of socialised in countries in the Middle East or in Northern Africa, as soon as they've been given British citizenship after just 6 years in this country, have somehow eschewed some of those more fundamental elements of their value system as soon as they get given that British passport, really is not how human beings work. And I think actually when you do see some of the data that is being produced by countries that collect crime stats by country of birth rather than nationality, you do see that, you know, the preponderance for certain nationalities, the Somalians, Somali of the world, the Eritreas, the Ethiopias of the world, are disproportionately represented even in those people that have maybe received naturalised status and are actually technically a citizen of, whether it be Denmark or Sweden. So I think we've got some statistics which show a quarter of rape convictions, sexual assault convictions last year were foreign nationals. But I think actually if we were to recognise that country of birth is included within it is something that's not taken into consideration, and many British nationals are actually people that were born overseas, we'd see a much more significant picture of the impact that mass migration is having on this country.
And it's countries, the hardly far-right countries such as Denmark, Finland, Norway, the Netherlands, Sweden, plus Australia's state of Victoria, they now do log their crime by country of birth. So even if you become nationalised, you become a citizen of those nations, you're still tracked by your country of birth. And they've done that for good reason, because they found that you don't magically become Swedish and have Swedish attitudes towards women and girls or society or Western values when you're nationalised into those countries. And so it's a useful thing to maintain tracking people from where they were born.
Exactly. They have got really successful, or are starting towards really successful assimilation and immigration policies. Unfortunately, in this country, we're still stuck in this rut that we see perpetuated by the media and many, many politicians as well, this idea of the kind of fallacy of a blank slate individual, that people are arriving in this country without any sort of preconditioned value systems or any sort of ways of behaviour that perhaps many in this country would find abhorrent. And I think actually what those countries in the sort of Scandinavian area are moving towards is a system where they will actually be able to have more successful and more tailor-made immigration systems going forward.
And now let's get, you've made us a nice graph. Let's try and get that on our screen now. This is the numbers, the naturalisations, the citizenships. This is the number of people that have come from abroad and become a British citizen over the years. The numbers are huge. Talk us through them.
They're exploding, and if you look at the start of 2025 as well, you'll actually see that probably this year is going to be one of the record numbers of naturalisations granted in British history. And I think this is really indicative of how loose we have been when it comes to awarding people the privileged status of being a British national. I think after 6 years, the idea that you somehow become British is something that a lot of people would dispute and say is far too lenient.
And there have been 2.5 million naturalisation citizenships in the UK, grants given out since 2005. So the point being, Rob Bates, in the past 20 years, 2.5 million people who were born overseas are suddenly treated by the police as British.
Exactly. They'll all be included in any crime stats as British nationals, and many of those people that have received citizenship have come from countries that, when we look at nationality, are overrepresented. Your Afghans and your Eritreans of the world that are 22 times more likely to be convicted of sexual offences, for instance. Those Afghans and Eritreans that have received British citizenship and go on to commit those crimes then fall under the British number. So it completely skews the pitch and really gives us an invalid situation and a sort of confrontation of where we are as a result of our immigration policy.
And the progressive nations have decided it's a sensible thing to keep people's data from country of birth because it allows them to monitor the types of crimes permitted, how to solve them, and how to keep their society safe. This isn't racist, it's sensible. Rob Bates, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming in to see us again in the studio today. Now I've got some breaking news for you now, and it's this. The father of the Manchester synagogue terrorist praised the October the 7th Hamas terrorists as Allah's men on earth on the day of the massacre. Faraj al-Shami said, "May God protect Palestine and its heroic people," after Hamas launched its deadly raid that killed over 1,200 people. Astonishing breaking news now. Our national reporter Charlie Peters joins us to tell us more. Charlie, brings up to speed.
Well, Martin, we've spent much of the day looking through the social media profiles of Faraj al-Shami, the father of Jihad al-Shami, the Manchester synagogue terrorist, especially since Faraj posted that family statement. And GB News can exclusively reveal that the father of the terrorist has also described Israel as a terrorist state on his Facebook profile, where he's made regular posts on the civil war in Syria and obviously also on the Israel-Hamas war. Now, Mr. al-Shami said in his post on October 7th, 2023, that the attack by Hamas had proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Israel would not remain. Now, posts by al-Shami were made on the same account that he had used to share that statement, in which he and his family in Britain and abroad expressed profound shock and strongly condemned the synagogue terrorist attack conducted by his son, Jihad, aged 35, who rammed his car into worshippers and also stabbed congregants on Yom Kippur. Now, Jihad al-Shami was then shot dead by armed police, but on October the 10th, 2023, days after that devastating attack on Israel, his father, Faraj al-Shami, appeared to describe the actions of Hamas as a miracle on all levels. He also urged the terror group to release vulnerable hostages, including the elderly and children. Now, the Telegraph newspaper has translated another post on October the 10th that appeared to question why Hamas was not being supported by Arab nations. According to the newspaper, he wrote, "Where is this so-called resistance with the Haifa rockets? May God's curse be upon the hypocrites, the traitors pledged to a disgusting and filthy sectarian agenda. The moment of truth is inevitably coming." Well, in a Facebook post today, al-Shami's account distanced the family from the attack yesterday. The family described it as a heinous act. They said the news from Manchester regarding the terrorist terrorist attack targeting a Jewish synagogue has been a profound shock to us. The al-Shami family in the UK and abroad strongly condemns this heinous act, which targeted peaceful, innocent civilians. We fully distance ourselves from this attack and express our deep shock and sorrow over what has happened. Our hearts and thoughts are with the victims and their families, and we pray for their strength and comfort. They also said, we kindly request that all media outlets respect the family's privacy during this very difficult time and refrain from using this tragic event in any context that does not reflect the truth. Well, GB News has approached Mr. al-Shami for comment regarding his posts about Hamas, Israel and the October 7th attacks. Now, obviously, they wanted to request their privacy, but in light of those comments that he made about Hamas and the October 7th attacks, we have reached out to them.
We've got some more breaking news as well here for you, Charlie Peters. It's incredible, that story. And the family of Adrian Daubney, 53, who died in the Manchester synagogue attack after being accidentally shot by the police, described him as a hero who tragically lost his life in the act of courage to save others. Just to reflect on that news. So some more breaking news there. The family of Adrian Daubney, the 53-year-old who died in the Manchester synagogue attack after being accidentally shot by police, described him as a hero who tragically lost his life in the act of courage to save others. Coming up, a new analysis has revealed that TV adverts are overrepresenting black people whilst ignoring the over 70s. This is GB News, Business News Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:26 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, a new analysis has revealed that TV adverts are actually overrepresenting black people whilst ignoring the over 70s. Now, the study by Channel 4 found that more than half of the commercials featured black people, despite the fact that black people make up only 4% of the population of the United Kingdom. Now, whilst pensioners only featured in 2% of adverts and pregnant women featured in just 0.1% of all adverts. Now, is this further proof that the advertising industry is irredeemably woke? Let's now speak with a social policy analyst, great friend of the show, Dr. Rakib Hassan. Dr. Rakib, a pleasure to have your company. A lot of people have been saying, is it just me? Or do we just seem to find that every couple on TV is mixed race? Do we seem to find now that every advert seems to have a lot of people of colour in it? And the study has come out by Channel 4, hardly a far-right broadcaster, and they've actually analysed 500 of the top adverts over 2 4-week periods, and it's proved precisely that.
Well, Martin, I'm glad that you mentioned that this is a Channel 4 study, because some people look at these findings and say, well, is this some kind of anti-woke right-wing study? It's absolutely not. This is a Channel 4 study. This research was carried out by an agency called Tapestry, which looked at the top 500 adverts across all stations over 2 blocks of 4 weeks. And what it found was that there is an overrepresentation of black people across all the ads. If you look at the last England and Wales census, I think that the percentage of the population who identified as black was in the region of 3 to 4%. Yet black people featured in over 50% of the ads under analysis. And I think that what was really interesting, and it's something that I've said for a long time, Martin, is that disability is truly the forgotten protected characteristic. I think some people forget it's actually a protected characteristic under the 2010 Equality Act. So if you look at the working age population, actually around 1 in 4 people are reported as living with a disability. But I think that they only featured in 4% of ads. And I think that it's really important that you mentioned the point that only 0.1% of the ads featured pregnant women. And I just think that really shows the kind of progressivism which exists in the ad world, really, that they try to remove what they consider to be traditional conceptions of womanhood.
Yeah, we don't want pregnant women, we want chest feeders. Or we want pregnant people. And also, when you look at the population of, example, East Asians, the Chinese, the Japanese, 1% of the population, but 11% of adverts. South Asians, Indians, Bangladeshis, 8% of the population, and about the same in ads. Here's the point. Should any of this matter? So what? It's just adverts. Why are people getting so het up about it? But I put it to you, Dr. Rakib Hassan, the advertising industry, just like a lot of the mainstream media, just like, dare I say it, the Parliament itself, they live in a bubble. They live in a bubble where their world, their output reflects their world, but it doesn't reflect the real world.
No, absolutely. And I think when you look at the advertising world, I suspect that much of that is rooted in London. And as you could call it, a sort of multicultural cosmopolitan industry, but it's disconnected from the realities of modern Britain. And if people are truly interested in diversity, equality and inclusion, then that you have to recognise in cases where minorities are overrepresented. For example, in the advertisements that we see on everyday telly. And I think it is important. I think you should want to provide at least some kind of accurate representation of what the population truly is based on what you watch on television. And I think that what it really shows that some minorities are more fashionable than others. I think that in the sort of progressive liberal world, in that sort of subculture, you could call it, people who belong to black ethnic minorities, they're almost seen as fashionable minorities, while people living with disabilities, disabled people, are not considered to be so fashionable. And I think that that goes directly against what inclusivity should be all about.
And Dr. Rakib Hassan, I was a little bit dismayed by the fact that old age pensioners over the age of 70, who are wonderful people who've contributed their entire lives, paid their taxes, they're in just 2% of the top 500 commercials. The people that supported the nation, rebuilt after the war, are simply invisible to advertisers.
No, absolutely. I believe that the state pension age is 66 now, and I think that if under this analysis, only 2% of the ads featured pensioners. And I think that what that really shows, I almost think there's this culture of gerontophobia, almost a kind of hatred of the elderly. And I think that you really saw that with Brexit as well, which I thought was especially revealing. I think that over time, I think one of the strongest forms of moral decay in modern Britain is disrespect towards the elderly, and I think that disrespect is almost shown by the fact that there's such a reluctance to even show them, especially when it comes to advertisements that we see on everyday television.
Dr. Rakib Hassan, excellently put, and a special bonus cigar there for even squeezing Brexit in. Always a pleasure to have on the show. Thank you very, very much indeed. You might know you go. Now, a quick bit of breaking news for you now, and it's this. Sources say that the terrorist Jihad al-Shami was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out the Manchester synagogue attack. Just to repeat that breaking news line, because we had heard this individual was meant to not to be known to the authorities. A quick breaking news line. Sources say that the terrorist Jihad al-Shami was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out the Manchester synagogue attack. Wow. Now, plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, here is your traffic and your travel update. Stick with us.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the M8 East at Junction 24, a broken down vehicle is restricting lane 1. Exercise caution. The M4 eastbound from Junction 34 at Miskin to Junction 32 at Corriton is congested. Wakefield's A1 northbound between the A638 and A639 faces 30-minute delays. Expect 50-minute delays on the M25 clockwise between junctions 15 and 17 due to congestion. And on the trains, South Western Railway faces disruption between Wimbledon, Effingham Junction, Hampton Court and Woking. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Still to come between now and 6 p.m. After the break, I'll be joined by the founders of Operation Raise the Colours as they begin using cherry pickers to put up flags. But first, here are latest news headlines, and it's Sophia Hill.
Martin, thank you. Very good afternoon. It's just gone 5:30. These are your top headlines. Breaking in the last few minutes, sources say that the terrorist Jihad al-Shami was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out the Manchester synagogue attack. Elsewhere, Keir Starmer has welcomed the appointment of Dame Sarah Mullally as the first female Archbishop of Canterbury. Actress Dame Patricia Routledge has died at the age of 96. She was best known for her role in the comedy show Keeping Up with Appearances as Mrs. Bouquet. And Storm Amy has been upgraded from a yellow to an amber warning for large parts of the UK. The north and the west of Scotland will be the worst hit by the storm, as the Forth Road Bridge has been closed to all traffic. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is now arriving, expected to bring spells of heavy rain and more especially very strong winds, disruptive and damaging wind gusts with northwestern parts of the UK at greatest impacts from the strongest winds. We're talking about parts of Northern Ireland and Western and Northern Scotland in particular. In fact, for many parts of the UK, 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts are likely, but the wind gusts peak across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland through the evening, with the risk of 80 miles an hour for Northern Ireland. Western Scotland seeing 100 mile-per-hour wind gusts in some of the most exposed spots. The strongest winds then transfer across the rest of Northern Scotland overnight, accompanied by heavy spells of rain. Another spell of rain pushes across England and Wales, bringing some lively weather. Sharp increases in the wind and rain overnight, briefly as that unsettled weather moves through. But across much of Scotland, it's still very windy first thing Saturday. Impacts from transport disruption to power disruption likely, as well as the risk of flooding because of the wet weather. And that rain will continue along with that strong wind throughout much of Saturday. It's a blustery start across the whole of the United Kingdom. Showers feeding into Wales and the southwest. Wind gusts here of 50 or 60 miles an hour. But the strongest winds during Saturday will be the northeast of Scotland. Here, 70 to 85 miles an hour, so expect ferry cancellations and other disruption to transport, along with dangerous conditions around coasts throughout tonight and into much of Saturday. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, it's certainly blustery out there. Those strong winds bringing frequent showers into the north and the west. Accumulated rain across the northwest Highlands reaching 100 millimetres. But after lunchtime, I think those winds will gradually start to moderate. It's not until the end of the day that we see the worst of the winds come to an end. And then Sunday is still blustery, it's still showery, but nowhere near as bad as we're expecting through Storm Amy.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 5:38 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Operation Raise the Colours protests are still very much going on. But as you can see, the reception isn't always warm.
There's other people who are incredibly... Bro, you're putting this up, you're trying to... You're trying to intimidate people, that's what you're doing. You're doing disgusting things, bro. You're trying to intimidate people, trying to intimidate good, hard-working people. Good, hard-working people.
Otherwise, the boys got on swimmingly. But they've got a new tactic now, the lads from Operation Raise the Colours, to try and outwit the council. And also, left-wingers, they say, who use ladders to take down their flags. They've upped the ante. I'm joined now by the co-founders of Operation Raise the Colours, who join me now in the studio. And, of course, that's Elliot Stanley and Brian Bridge. Gentlemen, welcome down all the way from Birmingham. You've been up to mischief again. Tell us what's happened this time, because the last time you were in, you put around about 200 or 300 flags up around the suburbs of Birmingham, and they were taken down the very same night by people, your opponents, who don't agree with you, as that clearly that gentleman there didn't, with ladders. And so you've decided to raise above them, as it were. Who wants to go first?
That's you, Ryan. So, yeah, we went back to the final stomping ground where we sort of got a little bit defeated and we felt a bit down, and they did take all the flags down within sort of 2 or 3 hours. And we went back there and we thought, well, you know, bigger and better, and we'll show that we're patriotic and we're going to fight till the end. And we got a cherry picker. It was a great day again, and we've raised them higher than ever. Union's at the top and St George's below, and they look absolutely great until we got halfway down the high street, and then literally we got attacked from all angles. We got called every name under the sun. As you can see, it was you know, a real good day. But what happened was that we got attacked by the left.
That's footage from Derby. This not the footage that we've got. Let's try and get the footage of the lads using the cherry picker. We've got exclusive videos of you boys out and about last night. So just to explain, here you are. So the issue is, if you use a ladder to put flags up, somebody else can just come along with a ladder and one of those garden snippers.
Yeah, they had the garden
to take them
snippers. They had we've seen people with makeshift devices on washing lines with stuff on, and they're prodding them down. But on this occasion, we think there was groups of 6 or 7 of them in a group, and they were going around with their ladders and literally just ripping them off lampposts, you know, masked up and all the rest of it. So we went back out there on on the raisetheColours.org wagon, and as you can see from the pictures, it was it was a great afternoon, and we got them bigger and better until we was met by the local left community, and it seemed that these people at these pop-up bars in the Sturchley, Birmingham area didn't like us at all, and they took to the streets with some horrible language towards us, calling us loads of different sorts of names.
Attitudes stuff, Nazis, fascists, racists.
Yeah, we were accused of doing Nazi salutes.
And the police came over because somebody crashed up to the police.
Yeah, the police were called repeatedly over the course of about half an hour. So, saying that we were damaging the pavement, we were, damaging the lamppost. So the police turned up 3 or 4 times, and in the end, the police said, look, there was about 30 or 40 of what we would call our opponents, let's say.
The left.
And so the police said, to not cause a breach of the peace, they were going to monitor what was going on and just essentially enforce the law and make sure that we were OK doing what we were doing. And, we come across friendly and... with no hostility to anybody, and they could quite clearly see that hostility was coming from the other side. So they just wanted to make sure that there was not going to be any incidents of any violence last night, which I'm sure it would have escalated into that.
The police were really good.
The police were really good.
They was friendly enough, and they basically chaperoned us up the road to make sure we were safe. They could see how hostile it was getting, how bad it was getting, and they said, listen, we don't see that you're doing anything wrong. There's no law against what you're doing. So we carried on in what we were doing.
It's come to our attention in the last week or so that the council are now advertising jobs on recruitment agencies, £25 an hour for 2 operatives to go out between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. to remove the flags. Birmingham City Council allegedly is bankrupt, but all of a sudden they can find £50 an hour to pay for 2 people to take the flags down throughout Birmingham.
Now, I should say we contacted the council about this, and they're denying, of course, that it's specifically about taking down the flags. Although they just say that in the top line, then we have got a statement just in the interests of clarity. In the reference to the job advert, Birmingham City Council issued this following statement. They said the job advert is for routine highways work. We proudly fly the Union flag outside the council house every day and recognise the importance of the Union flag and the flag of St George of symbols of national pride. When it comes to unauthorised items attached to lampposts, it is normal council procedure for these to be removed on a regular basis in line with our health and safety obligations, especially if they are becoming loose and pose a danger to motorists. As has always been the case, people are free to fly or hang flags from their homes or gardens, but we ask that they are not attached or added to street furniture. That's a long way of them saying they're not specifically going out to take the flags down. But the point is, there has been something of a flag war on the patch. You put them up, your opponents take them down. Now you've hired a cherry picker, you've gone higher, they can't use a ladder to get them down. What's going to happen next?
Well, through raisetheColours.org.uk, we're going to just... keep accepting donations off people so they can support the movement, and we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep putting them up, and as we've maintained from the start, for every one that gets took down, we'll put 2 up.
And it's worth adding, Ryan, that previous time you came down here, you were given drinks, you were given food by Asian business owners. They don't have a problem.
We literally went back to the same guy at the Everest Nepal restaurant on the Persia Road in Sturchley, Birmingham, and he was deeply upset that all his flags had been took down, the Union flags that he'd asked us to put up for him, and he said, I can't believe this has happened, and we put them back up higher for him, so he was happy. And we just need more help. We'd love... If anyone wants to email the website and come and give us a hand, we're all up for it. We're just peaceful, nice, working class guys, and we just want to raise attention. The sad thing is that these guys just seem to really hate their country they live in. They seem to hate the Union flag, the St George's flag, and we just don't know why. We're nothing to do with any far-right fascist movement. This is in the days of... our forefathers before those times. Let's move with the times, and the times are now, and times have changed, and we live in a multi-faith, multi-religion, country. And for us at raisethecolours.org.uk, as long as you play by the rules and you're legal, we're happy in this country to have whoever here, and whoever's welcome to come and help us raise the flag of our country.
Beautifully put, and we have to leave it there. You've raised the flags and now you've raised the stakes. They need to raise their game to try and keep up with you. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Elliot Stanley, Ryan Bridge, founders and CEOs, Raise the Colours.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very, very much for joining us indeed. Now, from surge to some holiday sun this year, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations. Thanks.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Looking ahead to tomorrow across southern parts of Europe, and there is a lot of fine weather around, but not everywhere. The same band of rain that's been sweeping through today across the UK in association with Storm Amy is going to fringe into northwestern parts of Spain and Portugal, bringing some wet weather here. Elsewhere, generally dry for most, but some heavy, showery bursts of rain likely across more eastern parts, particularly affecting Greece at times. Otherwise, it's looking largely fine into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Are you panicking when you're in Northern Ireland when you go out and about because there is a lack of chargers?
Well, listen, I'm really pro-EV, and we've had the odd issue with broken EV chargers, particularly yesterday at both Ballymoney at Beasties and also over at Dunsilley. We had issues with chargers, but the charging infrastructure is used very rarely. My mother, for example, she has overnight charging at home. She's never used a public charger, and she's had the car for 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you've got that domestic overnight charging, it's cheap. It's very affordable if you buy a 2-year-old EV, and they are absolutely the way forward. I'm a Yorkshireman. I don't like parting with my brass. I want to get cheap motoring, and for less than a penny a mile and a car for less than 20 grand to start with, you know, it sounds a bit blasé saying £20,000, but relative to what these cars are new, they're incredible value for money, and we're seeing mass adoption. There's a garage in Richmond in North Yorkshire that sells more than half of the cars they sell are electric vehicles, and that's in a rural Dales area. So it's about having that domestic overnight charging and not having to rely on public infrastructure.
Danny, where it doesn't convince me at all is, right, so I'm living in London and I want to go to see Manchester United, and I might get there, but am I going to get back down again? Or worse still, if I'm not on full charge, I'm going to miss kickoff because I'm going to have to rely on a public charger somewhere. So is that the sort of anxiety? I mean, you were talking about range anxiety there, Ellie. Is that the sort of anxiety people have? I mean, I genuinely have that. Despite what we were hearing there from Fraser.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 6. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Prince of Wales says change is on his agenda as he looks to his future as the king of our country one day. Now, royal correspondent Cameron Walker has taken a closer look at the landmark interview and what it could mean for the future of the monarchy.
I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good.
And I embrace that and I enjoy that change.
Possibly the Prince of Wales's most in-depth interview to date about his destiny.
Not overly radical change, but changes that I think need to happen.
As head of an institution dating back almost 1,000 years.
History can be a real weight and an anchor around you, and you can feel suffocated by it and restricted by it too much. And I think it's important to live for the here and now.
We've seen it already. As Duke of Cornwall, William's ordered a shake-up of the ancient duchy estate, waiving rents for grassroots organisations, discounts for charities, and more focus on well-being. But what about trooping the colour, coronations and royal weddings?
I think it's very important that tradition stays, but there's also points where you look at tradition and go, is that still fit for purpose today? Is that still the right thing to do?
In other words, the old way isn't necessarily King William's way. But it's understood he does plan to get crowned. The Prince lives in a house, not a palace. He does less public-facing engagements, but wants each one to make a difference.
I want to create a world in which my son is proud of what we do. In a world and a job that actually does impact people's lives for the better.
His family focus is clear.
I hope we don't go back to some of the practices in the past that Harry and I had to grow up in. If you don't start the children off now with a happy, healthy, stable home, I feel you're setting them up for a bit of a hard time and a fall.
A strategy, perhaps, to future-proof the monarchy from scandals. Prince William's described 2024 as the hardest year of his life, with 2 family cancer battles.
I'm so proud of my wife and my father for how they've handled all of last year. My children have managed brilliantly as well. Worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
The Princess of Wales was subject to intense media speculation during her cancer treatment, something Prince William was already familiar with.
Growing up, I saw that with my parents, is that the media was so insatiable back then. They wanted every bit of detail they could absorb, and they were in everything, literally everywhere. They would know things, they'd be everywhere. The damage it can do to your family life is something that I vowed would never happen to my family.
The Prince was taking part in Apple TV's The Reluctant Traveller with Eugene Levy.
Never felt more like a tourist.
Filmed in Windsor in February, it's unclear why Prince William's chosen to speak out now.
Your Royal Highness.
Nice to see you.
His father, King Charles, still undergoes a weekly cycle of cancer treatment, but there's no suggestion his health is significantly declining. One day, though, William will be king. When that happens, the British monarchy could receive its biggest shake-up in centuries. Cameron Walker, GB News.
Here's a reminder of this hour's 2 huge breaking news stories. Firstly, sources say that the terrorist Jihad al-Shami was on police bail for an alleged rape when he carried out the Manchester synagogue attack. And this follows the other news that his father, Jihad al-Shami's father, reportedly praised Hamas after the October 7th massacre in Israel. Astonishing stuff. Up next is Jubes & Co. tonight, hosted by Dawn Neeson. Dawn, what's on your menu?
Great, thank you very much, Martin. A cracking show, as always. Now, I really want your company tonight, because at 6 o'clock, I have probably one of the most astonishing shows I have ever hosted. And you really don't want to miss a single thing of it. There's some shocking exclusives in there, some shocking stories, and as always, brilliant debate. We'll see you very soon.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Storm Amy is now arriving, expected to bring spells of heavy rain and more especially very strong winds, disruptive and damaging wind gusts with northwestern parts of the UK at greatest impacts from the strongest winds. We're talking about parts of Northern Ireland and Western and Northern Scotland in particular. In fact, for many parts of the UK, 50 to 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts are likely, but the wind gusts peak across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland through the evening, with the risk of 80 miles an hour for Northern Ireland. Western Scotland seeing 100 mile-per-hour wind gusts in some of the most exposed spots. The strongest winds then transfer across the rest of Northern Scotland overnight, accompanied by heavy spells of rain. Another spell of rain pushes across England and Wales, bringing some lively weather. Sharp increases in the wind and rain overnight, briefly as that unsettled weather moves through. But across much of Scotland, it's still very windy first thing Saturday. Impacts from transport disruption to power disruption likely, as well as the risk of flooding because of the wet weather. And that rain will continue along with that strong wind throughout much of Saturday. It's a blustery start across the whole of the United Kingdom. Showers feeding into Wales and the southwest. Wind gusts here of 50 or 60 miles an hour. But the strongest winds during Saturday will be the northeast of Scotland. Here, 70 to 85 miles an hour, so expect ferry cancellations and other disruption to transport, along with dangerous conditions around coasts throughout tonight and into much of Saturday. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, it's certainly blustery out there. Those strong winds bringing frequent showers into the north and the west. Accumulated rain across the northwest Highlands reaching 100 millimetres. But after lunchtime, I think those winds will gradually start to moderate. It's not until the end of the day that we see the worst of the winds come to an end. And then Sunday is still blustery, it's still showery, but nowhere near as bad as we're expecting through Storm Amy.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A82 to A861 Corran ferry service is cancelled due to severe weather. In Cumbria, an incident on the M6 southbound between junctions 37 and 36 causes slowdowns until 6:15. Wakefield's A1 northbound between the A638 and A639 junctions has 40-minute delays, likely cleared by 10:45. In Buckinghamshire, 1.5-hour delays on the M25 clockwise between junctions 14 and 17 should clear by 8:45. And on the trains, South Western Railway faces major disruptions between Wimbledon and Woking. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Dawn Neeson and you are watching Jubes and Co. Now, hard show coming up, but one that you must not miss. Yesterday's shocking terror attack on a Manchester synagogue left 2 people dead. Tonight, we ask, does the government have blood on its hands? And despite the terror attack on Manchester's Jewish community, pro-Palestinian protests went ahead yesterday with more planned for tomorrow, a big one in London tomorrow. But we're asking tonight also, should they be cancelled? And as Donald Trump issues a final warning to Hamas over the Gaza peace deal, should the Prime Minister reverse his decision to recognise that Palestine state? It wouldn't be his first U-turn, would it, to be fair? And for a bit of fun at the end, the Prince of Wales has hinted at reform within the royal family. Is it time for the monarchy to change, though, and in what way?